Welcome, traveler of thoughts and dreams. Perhaps the day has been long. Perhaps you've been measuring it by screens, schedules, and the ticking hands of a clock. Now, you can let those measures fade. There's no countdown here, only rhythm, only breath, only the quiet hum of time itself. As you lie back, notice how the air feels cooler on each inhale and warmer on each exhale. Notice the gentle shift of weight where your body meets the bed or chair. Each small change marks a moment. Already, time is speaking, not in numbers or alarms, but in sensations, the whisper of fabric, the slow blink of your eyes, the pulse behind your temple. This is where our journey begins, in the hush between one heartbeat and the next. You don't have to stay fully awake for this. If your mind drifts, that's all right. The story of time continues whether you listen or dream. Let it carry you. Time is something we all feel but can never quite hold. Even when we close our eyes at night, it keeps moving, steady, invisible, carrying us like a quiet river that never ends. This journey begins there, at the surface of that river, where seconds drift into minutes, and minutes dissolve into memories. Imagine the way a single drop of rain slides down a window. You can follow it for a while, but it eventually joins the rest, lost among thousands of others. That's what moments are, small, shining droplets that merge until the line between one and the next fades away. Human minds are wonderful at measuring time, and yet terrible at feeling it evenly. When we are busy or joyful, hours disappear. When we wait or worry, each minute stretches like a long thread. Scientists say the brain doesn't actually sense and scent time as a physical thing. Instead, it builds time out of change. Every heartbeat, every breath, every shift in light tells your mind that something new has begun. It strings those changes together like beads. Beneath this awareness lies a rhythm that has guided life since the beginning. Even before clocks existed, our ancestors followed the rising sun and fading stars. The first timekeepers were shadows, tides, and hunger. Each told the body when to move, when to rest, when to dream. And so, the sense of time we carry today is older than words, older than calendars. It's written in our cells. Think of how you can wake up a minute before your alarm. That's not coincidence. Inside your brain, a cluster of neurons called the suprachiasmatic nucleus E keeps track of the light outside and quietly counts the hours within. It's your inner sunrise adjusting itself each day. When the light fades, your body releases melatonin, that small chemical whisper telling you it's time to slow down. The machinery of time isn't metal gears, it's the pulse of living tissue, turning endlessly. Children often feel that summers last forever. Adults somehow blink and find that years have slipped away. It isn't the world that changes speed, it's our sylvan attention. Novelty stretches the minutes. Repetition folds them. The first time you see snow, every flake seems to hover in the air. The 100th time, it simply falls. So part of learning to rest is also learning to notice again, to let each familiar moment become strange and shining once more. Try something. Listen to your breathing right now. Notice how each inhale feels slightly longer than the one before. That tiny difference is your body's rhythm adjusting. When people synchronize their breath to slower patterns, about 6 per minute, the mind begins to drift, the sense of time widening like a calm lake. Meditation researchers call this sine-temporal dilation. To the listener, it simply feels peaceful. Even music owes its power to time. A lullaby slows the heartbeat, a drum quickens it. The space city between I notes tells us when to expect the next one, and anticipation is what the brain calls the future. When that future arrives right on cue, it rewards us with calm satisfaction. In that way, every gentle rhythm is a small promise kept. Philosophers have long wondered whether time flows at all. Perhaps they suggest all moments exist simultaneously, and our minds just travel through them like a lantern sliding along a frozen river. We experience the light moving, but the ice beneath never changes. For bedtime thinkers, that image can be soothing. Everything that has happened and will happen already rests quietly in place. You're merely drifting across it, warm in the present. Sometimes we wish time would hurry, other nights we wish it would stop. Yet both desires come from the same wish, to feel secure inside the flow. And security begins when we stop fighting the current. Close your eyes and imagine time not as something chasing you, but as something carrying you. It doesn't rush, it simply moves. It will keep moving whether you think about it or not. Look back for a moment. Yesterday, last week, the year before. The images that appear are not the events themselves, but tiny reconstructions your brain makes, each time slightly new. That's why old memories sometimes change their colors or sounds. The mind paints them again with every recall, using today's emotions as fresh pigment. Time, in that sense, is a quiet artist, always repainting the past. If you've ever watched clouds on a still afternoon, you may have noticed that they seem motionless when you stare but drift quickly when you glance away. That's how consciousness handles time. Too much focus, and it freezes. A softer gaze, and it flows. Sleep happens when that focus relaxes completely. The watcher in your mind steps back from counting seconds and allows them to merge. You no longer ask, "What time is it?" because you have become part of the answer. So as we begin this long, gentle exploration of time and the mind, take a slow breath. Feel it rise, pause, and fall. This breath marks one tiny wave in an endless ocean of moments. You don't need to chase them or hold them. They will carry you, quietly, until morning. There are moments when the seconds stretch so far apart that they almost seem to stop. A falling object, a breathtaking sight, a sudden fright, or even the hush of a perfect morning. Each can make time slow, as if the world itself has taken a deep breath. It's an illusion, but a beautiful one, and our minds create it from pure attention. When something unexpected happens, the brain shifts into high resolution. Every sense sharpens, recording more frames per second, more details, more memory. That extra data makes the event seem longer in retrospect, even though the clock has moved normally. It's the same reason childhood memories seem endless, because every new thing demanded full focus. Our first snowflake, our first ocean wave, our first quiet heartbreak, all of them stretched time open wide, so we could see it clearly before it drifted away. But time slows not only in excitement or danger, it also slows in peace. Sit beside a lake just before sunset and notice how minutes melt together. The wind changes direction, the light folds itself into gold, and the surface of the water mirrors the sky. Nothing truly stops, yet your perception loosens, like fabric unspooling from a reel. You are no longer watching time pass, you are floating inside it. This gentle distortion comes from a different kind of attention. In stillness, the brain stops scanning for change and begins to merge with the rhythm around it. Heart rate decreases. Neurons fire in slower, synchronized waves. You are not collecting details, you are breathing them. A scientist calls it parasympathetic activation. The poet calls it calm. To you, it feels like a long exhale that never quite ends. Imagine sitting by a candle flame. The air is motionless, except for that small shimmer of light. As you focus on it, the flicker seems to slow. In reality, the flame moves as it always has. But your awareness, freed from rush and noise, begins to match its pace. The world becomes softer, slower, deeper. Every small movement, every whisper of heat becomes enough. People who meditate often describe losing track of minutes or hours. They emerge from quiet reflection, surprised by how much time has passed. Inside the practice, though, they feel timeless. The mind's inner clock is guided by novelty, not by mechanical motion. When novelty disappears, when each breath feels like the last, and that sameness feels safe, the sense of passing time fades away. In this space, the mind can finally rest. There's a reason deep relaxation and slow perception are linked. In nature, when an animal feels no threat, its awareness widens, not sharpens. It sees more sky, more field, more horizon. The body loosens its grip on the moment. Humans inherited this instinct too. When we feel safe enough to stop counting seconds, we return to a more ancient rhythm, the same rhythm that rocked us to sleep as children. You might notice this effect when you stare at clouds, waves, or the sway of trees. Your gaze softens, your thoughts drift, and time begins to pool instead of run. It isn't boredom, it's the opposite. It's deep absorption, the merging of mind and moment. Psychologists sometimes call it twin flow. Artists experience it when they create, musicians when they play, runners when they lose themselves in motion. But you don't have to move to feel it. You can find flow in stillness too, right here, by doing nothing at all. When you close your eyes and breathe slowly, the brain's internal metronome resets. Each heartbeat becomes slightly farther apart. The body temperature drops by a fraction of a degree. Cortisol, the hormone that sharpens the sense of urgency, declines. Meanwhile, alpha and theta waves rise in your brain, weaving patterns seen only during deep relaxation or the edge of sleep. It's the body's way of whispering, for there is no need to hurry. For as the body slows, so does time. Our memories of these moments tend to shine brighter, even if they contain no drama. A morning walk, the hush before dawn, the sound of rain against a window. They remain vivid because we were fully there. When attention meets stillness, the ordinary becomes infinite. A single second expands to fill the mind completely, and that fullness feels like eternity. There are stories of people who faced danger and later said, "It all happened in slow motion." In truth, their brains recorded more information in less real time. Survival sharpened awareness until each fragment of experience stretched into its own frame. Adrenaline does this to save us. But the opposite chemical, calm, can create the same effect for peace. Oxytocin, endorphins, and serotonin all slow internal time by reducing anxiety. Instead of stretching seconds through fear, they soften them through safety. Time is not one thing for all people, it's a private current that shifts with feeling. When you love someone, hours vanish. When you miss them, minutes crawl. And when you sit quietly at night, half awake, half dreaming, time folds around you like a blanket. It's not gone, just resting beside you. You can try it now. Let your shoulders sink a little deeper. Notice how the air touches your skin. Notice the small pauses between your breaths. There's more space there than you think. Each pause is a small doorway into timelessness. If you step through it, you'll find nothing waiting, and that nothing will feel perfectly fine. Sometimes the most peaceful truth is this: time doesn't always have to move forward. It can open sideways. It can widen until it feels endless, like the horizon seen from the sea. In that expanse, thought slows, muscles soften, and the world's noise drifts away. That's where sleep begins, not as an escape, but as a gentle surrender to the way time bends. So as this quiet night continues, let time be slow. Let it spill and shimmer like honey, heavy and golden. Each word you hear, each breath you take, belongs to a moment that will never repeat exactly this way again. And that, in itself, is beautiful. You don't have to count the seconds anymore. They already know where to go. Somewhere deep behind your eyes, inside a small pocket of your brain, there ticks a clock with no hands and no sound. It doesn't hang on a wall or glow on a screen. It keeps time in pulses of electricity, in rhythms of light and dark. This inner timekeeper, your body's circadian rhythm, has been counting days since long before you learned the names of hours. Every creature that wakes and sleeps obeys some version of it. Crickets sing when the air cools. Flowers open with the sunrise. Even coral reefs glow once a year under the same full moon, guided by that quiet timing written into their cells. Inside us, the same principle hums along. Chemistry turning into rhythm, rhythm turning into life. The brain's master clock sits in a place called the thuviasmatic nucleus size, a bundle of roughly 20,000 neurons, no larger than a grain of rice. Each cell there fires in a pattern that lasts about 24 hours. Together they orchestrate the body's daily symphony: heartbeats, hormones, temperature, hunger, alertness. When daylight touches the eyes, signals rush down optic nerves to that hidden conductor. The melody shifts, cortisol rises to wake us, blood pressure climbs gently, and the mind begins its daytime tempo. As evening falls, the light fades, and the music changes key. Melatonin seeps into the bloodstream, telling organs and thoughts alike that it's time to slow. Heart rate dips, muscles cool, and the internal metronome softens its beat. You might think of it as nature's lullaby written directly into your body. Even when isolated from sunlight, the rhythm continues, proof that time lives inside you, not only around you. Astronauts in orbit, researchers in dark caves, and workers in windowless stations all report the same pattern, about a day in length, rising and falling like the tide. It drifts a little without the sun's cue, but it never disappears. You carry a miniature planet's rotation within you. There are smaller clocks nested inside this larger one. Your liver has its own schedule for digesting, your skin for healing, your brain for dreaming. When they fall out of sync, too much blue light at midnight, too little rest at dawn, you feel it. The mind fogs, moods wobble, appetite changes. It's not punishment, it's jet lag between the body's cities. Realignment begins the moment you honor sunrise again. Think of the times you've traveled across the world and felt your hours slide sideways. For a while, the outer world's clock disagrees with the one within. But slowly, the neurons listen to the light, reset, and peace returns. This resilience is remarkable, a self-correcting system made to find rhythm no matter where the planet spins you. The same mechanism shapes shorter cycles, too. The Freudian rhythms of attention and energy that rise and fall about every 90 minutes. That's why focus comes in waves. The mind gathers power, then drifts. Pushing against that drift rarely works. Resting for a moment often resets the tide. In a long night of listening, these smaller rhythms guide the pulse of thought itself, inviting moments of alert curiosity, followed by gentle descent toward sleep. Within dreams, yet another clock takes over. During REM sleep, the brain's activity surges, heart rate flutters, eyes move beneath closed lids. Minutes here feel like hours. Time inside a dream bends easily, because the dream world has no sunrise to obey. When you wake, the inner clocks resynchronize, grateful for the light's reminder that morning exists. Sometimes we ignore these signals. Artificial brightness extends our days, alarms cut our nights short, and caffeine stirs the tempo faster than nature intended. Still, the body forgives us. It keeps adjusting, searching for balance between effort and rest. Each evening, as melatonin gathers, it whispers the same suggestion: say low down, the day is ending. Let me keep time for you. Scientists can measure this rhythm in almost anything: heartbeats, hormone levels, even body heat. Around 4 a.m., temperature reaches its lowest point. Just before waking, it begins to rise again. The cycle never stops. It only changes tone, and within that reliable motion lies a kind of peace, proof that life is steady beneath our distractions. If you listen closely, you can feel your own metronome, the faint pulse at your wrist, the steady lift of your chest, each pattern marking another round of the body's music. You don't need to control it. It is already perfect. Let awareness of that rhythm calm you, the assurance that something inside knows what to do without thought or effort. As night deepens, external clocks lose meaning. The one on your phone, the one beside your bed, they can rest too. Your true clock is already winding down, preparing to weave consciousness into dreams. It will keep you safe in its timing, waking you when light returns, just as it has for every dawn of your life. So if you find yourself counting the hours, stop and remember, time is not an enemy to outrun. It's an internal tide, faithful and kind. Trust its pull, let it draw you toward rest. The seconds outside may tick endlessly, but the ones within are circling home. Close your eyes for a moment and imagine time as something you could touch. Would it feel like wind, brushing past you in one direction? Or would it feel solid, like the surface of a lake, still, until you move across it? Scientists, philosophers, and dreamers have all tried to answer this question, and none have agreed completely. That uncertainty is part of its beauty. Physics says that time is woven together with space, forming a single fabric space-time spine. When you move, that fabric bends. When a planet forms, its mass curves the fabric around it, and what we call gravity is simply matter following the easiest path through that curve. In that sense, time is not a flowing river. It is the shape of the landscape beneath the river. We are the ones who move. Einstein showed that the faster an object travels, the slower its internal time runs, compared with something standing still. This isn't metaphor, it's measurable. Astronauts aboard the International Space Station age a fraction of a second less than we do on Earth. Clocks flown in airplanes tick just a little slower than those on the ground. Time, it turns out, depends on where you are and how you move. It's flexible, elastic, gentle enough to stretch across galaxies. But flexibility does not mean chaos. Every point in space-time connects logically to every other, forming a vast pattern of cause and effect. Imagine a grand tapestry of events. Stars being born, leaves falling, conversations whispered in the dark, all threads woven together by unseen geometry. We live inside that design, able to see only a few inches of its surface. The rest continues beyond our sight, endless and orderly. For the human mind, that's hard to picture. We evolved to feel minutes and seasons, not light years. So we give time metaphors, a path, a wheel, a current. Each helps us translate the vast into the intimate. And at night, when thoughts slow, these metaphors become soothing stories, ways to feel that the universe moves with rhythm, not randomness. Think about sunlight reaching Earth. It leaves the sun 8 minutes before touching your skin. When you feel its warmth, you're already sensing the past. In every direction, the sky is filled with light from different ages. Young stars blazing now, ancient galaxies whose glow began before Earth existed. To look outward is to look backward through history, stacked layer upon layer until the first dawn. On a cosmic scale, time's immensity, it reminds us that our brief hours fit safely inside something immeasurably larger. A single lifetime becomes a spark in an ever-burning field. The heart slows a little with that thought. The shoulders release. We realize there is no need to rush when the universe itself moves so patiently. Physicists sometimes speak of a block universe where past, present, and future coexist. From that view, all moments simply foodie, are like pages already written in a book. We experience the story by reading one line after another, but the entire narrative exists at once. Whether or not that model is correct, it can be a peaceful one. If every moment already has its place, then what we call now is just where our attention happens to rest. And attention is what turns time from abstraction into feeling. When you stare at a candle's flame or listen to rain, you are not measuring seconds. You are tasting continuity. The mind, relieved from counting, allows physics to fade into perception. You are no longer separate from the clock. You are part of the same unfolding pattern. Consider a photon, a single particle of light. From its own perspective, if it could have one, the journey from the sun to your eyes takes no time at all. Light travels at a speed where duration shrinks to zero. Between emission and arrival, there is no waiting. Everything happens in one continuous instant. In that strange truth lies an idea both scientific and soothing. Somewhere in the universe, timelessness already exists. Even the ticking of an ordinary watch reflects cosmic design. Each swing of the quartz crystal or vibration of an atomic clock mirrors predictable laws set billions of years ago. Our simplest devices echo the rhythm of creation. When you listen closely to a clock in a quiet room, the alternating sound tick-tock becomes almost like breathing. It's mechanical, yes, but also familiar. Expansion and contraction, energy and rest. The universe inhaling and exhaling through a tiny instrument on your wall. Not all cultures imagine time as a straight line. Some see it as a circle, endlessly repeating. Others as a spiral that revisits similar places, but at higher turns. In physics, the equations that govern time are nearly symmetric. They don't care which direction it flows. Only entropy, the slow drift from order to disorder, gives time its arrow. Without that arrow, everything could happen backward, and the universe would look the same. The fact that it doesn't tells us that change has a preferred direction, towards spreading, blending, evening out. Even decay has its own calm logic. When we rest, entropy within the body lowers locally. Cells repair, systems restore, order quietly rebuilds itself. In those hours, we borrow against the universe's grand trend toward chaos, creating a pocket of harmony inside the larger drift. That tiny rebellion is what life is, and every night, by sleeping, we join it again. So what quenches our time, finally? Maybe it's the texture of existence, the difference between everything happening at once and everything having room to breathe. Maybe it's the stage on which motion performs, or the quiet heartbeat of reality itself. Whatever it is, it never demands that you understand it completely. It only asks that you notice its gentleness, the steady progression of seasons, the pulse behind your wrist, the hush between one thought and the next. As you listen, let that gentleness be enough. The universe has been keeping perfect time for nearly 14 billion years, and tonight it keeps time for you too. Each breath, each slow blink, each drifting idea fits perfectly into its rhythm. You don't have to count. Just rest inside the measureless moment that physics calls now. Imagine standing on a cliff at night, looking up into the stars. They appear still, glittering in frozen patterns, yet each one moves through space at thousands of kilometers per second. What you see is light that left them years, centuries, even millennia ago. Already, time has begun to stretch between you and the cosmos. According to relativity, the faster an object moves or the stronger the gravity around it. the slower time flows for it compared with an observer elsewhere. This effect, called Feti time dilation, isn't theory alone. It's been measured again and again. A clock carried in a plane ticks imperceptibly slower than one left on the ground. On a mountain peak, where gravity's pull is weaker, time moves ever so slightly faster than at sea level. Every point in the universe has its own rhythm. Near massive bodies, black holes, neutron stars, this difference grows dramatic. A minute spent close to such gravity wells might equal hours or years for someone far away. In the film of reality itself, the frames stretch wider near immense mass, as if the universe were taking a slower breath there. From afar, we would see light bend and crawl, signals drawn out into deep red hues before fading altogether. To the traveler caught in that field, however, nothing feels strange. Their heartbeat and thoughts can tune normally. Each world carries its own clock inside its gravity. On Earth, we barely notice these shifts, yet satellites in orbit must account for them precisely. Without correcting for both speed and altitude, GPS signals would drift kilometers off each day. Even technology depends on the subtle stretching of time, a reminder that the universe's poetry is also its precision. If you could watch yourself from the viewpoint of a distant galaxy, you would seem to move through time at a slightly different rate than the stars beyond. Space itself is expanding. Galaxies recede from one another, like dots painted on an inflating balloon. As they drift apart, the light between them stretches too, its wavelength lengthening, its color softening toward red. This tempting cosmic redshift is the heartbeat of the universe's growth, a visual proof that time and space are intertwined. Breathing together, picture that balloon again, expanding in utter silence. Every speck upon it feels stationary, yet all are moving away from all others. That is our reality, motion that feels like stillness because everything shares it equally. Time dilation works the same way in perception. When all moments slow in unison, we cannot feel the change, we only feel calm. Approach one, and from an outside view your motion appears to freeze. Photons emitted from near its edge take longer and longer to escape until they seem to hang motionless. But to you, falling inward, nothing halts. You would cross the invisible boundary, the event horizon, without feeling a break. Time there simply bends so steeply that all future paths lead inward. It's terrifying to imagine physically, but conceptually it reveals a truth. Time is flexible, yet continuous. It never snaps, only curves. Some physicists suggest that this curvature means the universe itself has no single present. Each observer experiences their own slice of now, tilted and stretched by motion. When we look at one another, we are always seeing slightly into each other's past. On human scales, the difference is immeasurable, but the idea adds a quiet wonder to every glance. Everyone we meet is already a little memory. There is gentleness in this vast relativity. If everything moves at its own pace, then there is no absolute rush. Cosmic time cares nothing for minutes or deadlines. It flows as slowly as gravity allows. To think of this while lying under the night sky is to feel the mind slow too, aligning its rhythm with starlight that has traveled eons. Each shimmer becomes a soft reminder. The universe has patience beyond measure. Astronauts who orbit Earth experience this patience physically. Their onboard clocks lag behind ours by microseconds with every trip around the planet. After months in space, they return fractionally younger than their peers. The difference is tiny yet real. In their bodies lies proof that time itself is elastic, a fabric that yields gently to motion. To drift above the world is to drift through slightly slower moments, wrapped in the same softness that stretches between stars. When you watch the sky tonight, remember that even light feels this stretching. A photon climbing away from gravity loses energy, turning redder and slower, but never stopping. It keeps going until distance swallows its color entirely, leaving only darkness that hums faintly with old radiation. That hum, the cosmic microwave background, is the echo of the universe's first light, cooled and expanded over nearly 14 billion years. It bathes you now, gentle and invisible, whispering the earliest seconds of time into the present moment. Think of that, the faint warmth of creation still touching your skin. You are part of the same drift, carried forward by the universe's own dilation. Every breath you take happens in rhythm with that ancient expansion. The atoms in your body stretch and age at the same slow pace as distant galaxies. And yet, for you, everything feels normal. That normality is the miracle. the endless harmony between the cosmic and the personal. So if life sometimes feels hurried, remember that deep beneath the ticking of your daily hours, time is already generous. It has been slowing, stretching, accommodating the dance of stars for longer than memory. Close your eyes and imagine yourself floating through that vast field, no edges, no rush, only motion so broad it feels like rest. You are moving. Yes, but you are also perfectly still. The universe drifts with you, far beyond the reach of any telescope, beyond every cluster of galaxies we can name. The fabric of time itself thins into mystery. No one knows whether it ends, loops, or simply continues without boundary. We call this uncertainty forever, and we speak of it in whispers because the mind can't hold something so vast. Yet, that very inability brings peace. To realize that there is no edge is to stop leaning forward and simply float. Every beginning we can trace of a star, a planet, a life emerges from something earlier. Even the Big Bang, that brilliant instant when matter and time unfolded, may not have been the first note, but a chord in an older melody. Perhaps another universe contracted before ours expanded. Perhaps expansion and contraction are merely breathing, cosmic inhalations and exhalations stretched across eternity. If that is so, then forever isn't a line but a rhythm, and we live within one beat of it. Astronomers measure light from the earliest galaxies and find it still traveling, stretched thin by the universe's growth. The farther we look, the younger the light, until it fades into a glow too faint to see. That glow, the cosmic background, is almost perfectly even, like the afterimage of creation painted on darkness. When we study it, we aren't peering into distance, we're looking backward through time itself, toward the first dawn. Every photon that reaches us tonight began its journey almost 14 billion years ago and has never once stopped. Even now it crosses your eyelids when you sleep. Scientists sometimes imagine what might lie beyond that horizon, the region from which no light has yet arrived. Maybe the same physics continues there, galaxies forming and fading in cycles, unending. Maybe time curves back on itself, like the surface of a sphere, so traveling far enough ahead would eventually return you to the start. Or maybe the universe is truly boundless, expanding forever, its edges always receding faster than anything can chase them. Whatever the answer, it humbles us. We are local ripples in a limitless sea. When people contemplate infinity, they often feel small, but smallness can be soothing. It frees us from the need to hurry. A single lifetime flickering against cosmic ages is no less complete for its brevity. In fact, its finiteness gives meaning to every quiet moment. A star burns for billions of years, but it never knows that it shines. We, who last so briefly, have time to notice. Even language strains to describe eternity. We call it endless, boundless, timeless, words that all point toward absence. Yet perhaps forever is not absence, but presence too vast to measure. The atoms in your breath were forged in ancient stars. When you exhale, they drift outward to join the same cosmic wind that once shaped them. In this sense, nothing is lost. It only changes tempo. Time's edge is not a cliff, but a blending, the slow fade of one rhythm into another. Consider entropy again, the slow drift toward disorder. If left unchecked, the universe will thin and cool until every star is gone, every atom adrift. Physicists call that distant possibility phi het death, the phrase that sounds final but may be only another pause. Even in such silence, quantum whispers might stir new beginnings, tiny fluctuations, sparking fresh bursts of order, creation and decay, rest and renewal, one great heartbeat repeating on unimaginable scales. When you think of that, the mind quiets. There is nothing to solve, only to witness. The night sky ceases to be a roof and becomes an open doorway. Each pinpoint of light is both history and promise. Each shadow a reminder that not knowing can also be peace. The more the intellect reaches outward, the more the heart turns inward, finding the same infinite space within. Somewhere between atoms and galaxies lies consciousness itself, the small observer that can imagine all of this. Awareness, too, might be timeless. Moments of deep presence, when thought stops naming and only feels carry the same quality as infinity. No beginning, no end, only being. Perhaps forever is not out there at all, but inside every instant fully lived. When you breathe slowly enough, you can almost feel it, an endless moment, stretched across a single inhalation. If the universe truly expands without end, then so does the possibility of beauty. New stars will form in clouds we will never see. New minds will awaken on worlds still gathering from dust. Our brief age is one stanza in a poem still being written across galaxies. That knowledge can feel heavy or light, depending on how you hold it. Hold it softly, and it becomes lullaby. So, as this chapter closes, imagine yourself drifting at the very edge of that immeasurable horizon. There is no up or down, no before or after, only a quiet brightness stretching in every direction. You are not falling, you are floating in the pause between one cosmic breath and the next. The body grows weightless, the mind transparent, the ticking of minutes dissolving into the background hum of forever. Stay here a while. Let infinity be simple. Let it be the feeling of calm that arrives when there is nowhere left to go and nothing left to count. The edge of forever isn't far away. It's right here, in this stillness, in this breath, in this gentle awareness that you exist at all. Close your eyes and let a memory surface. Maybe it's a morning light falling through a window, or the sound of footsteps on a quiet street, or the scent of rain that once met you after school. Notice how quickly you travel there. How, in less than a breath, the mind can leap years. No spaceship, no machine, just thought. Memory bends time more easily than any law of physics. What we call the past is not stored like a film reel inside the brain. It's recreated each time, assembled from fragments, images, sounds, emotions, the faint trace of who we were. Neuroscientists have watched this happen. Clusters of neurons in the hippocampus spark in patterns that echo earlier activity, building a map of experience. Each time you recall something, that map shifts slightly, edited by the present moment. The past, then, is alive. It changes every time we remember it. That's why days of childhood seem endless in hindsight. Every smell, every discovery, every new texture demanded fresh recording. The brain's clock was running fast, absorbing detail, laying down new connections. Years later, routine compresses those recordings. Fewer new patterns mean fewer distinct markers of time. It's not that life accelerates, it's that memory records less per hour. The tape runs at the same speed, it simply captures fewer frames. Some psychologists call this the CT density of encoding. When many unique events fill a day, it feels long. When repetition rules, it shrinks. This is why vacations expand subjectively and commutes collapse. The measure of a day isn't its minutes, it's the number of impressions it leaves behind. Memory and emotion intertwine in this process. Moments rich with feeling carve deeper traces. A first kiss, a great loss, a sound that once comforted you, they stay because emotion etched them in higher contrast. But gentle feelings, too, hold power. The rhythm of a lullaby, the warmth of an afternoon nap, the hush of a shared silence. These tender textures line the shelves of the mind, cushioning the sharper ones. As you lie here, drifting between wakefulness and sleep, notice how memory begins to loosen. Thoughts drift from one image to another, with little order. The brain, preparing for rest, rehearses and files the day's experiences. Dream researchers believe this nightly sorting strengthens learning and softens emotional edges. It's as if your mind sweeps the floor of consciousness, leaving space for tomorrow's footprints. Even in waking life, memory guides the sense of time's flow. Without it, each moment would appear new but disconnected, a series of flashes without continuity. Patients who lose the ability to form new memories describe existing in an eternal present. They cannot feel the movement from one second to the next because nothing accumulates. Time, for them, does not stretch forward, it hovers. Our awareness of duration, then, is simply the echo of memory forming behind us. Think of music. A melody only exists because we remember the note that just played while hearing the one that comes next. Without memory, sound would be noise. Without memory, time would be static. The mind's timeline is a constant weaving of what was with what is, a loom that runs quietly in the background of every thought. Sometimes memory folds backward in on itself. A scent or a color triggers an old scene so vividly that we forget where we are. That sudden transport, nostalgia, slows time in a tender way. For a few seconds, the boundaries between years blur, and past and present merge like two layers of glass. The emotion that rises then is often bittersweet, but it's also grounding, proof that the life we've lived still moves within us. In aging, the patterns of recall change again. People often say time speeds up as they grow older, but it's more accurate to say that memory becomes more selective. The brain favors significance over novelty, efficiency over abundance. That selectivity can feel like loss, but it's also a mercy. It allows the mind to dwell on meaning instead of measurement. And meaning, unlike minutes, has no schedule. Scientists have found that even the simple act of reflection, thinking about one's own memories, can expand the sense of time. Writing a diary, talking with an old friend, revisiting photos, all stretch the hours because they multiply the number of remembered points along the mental timeline. The more you acknowledge time, the more room it gives you. Memory is not only backward-looking, it's also the template for imagination. When we picture the future, the brain reuses the same networks it uses to recall the past. We build tomorrow out of yesterday's pieces. That is why hope and remembrance feel similar. Both are stories projected into time. If you could see your life from above, it might look like a constellation of memories linked by invisible lines. The pattern shifts as you grow, new stars appearing, old ones fading. The shape tells no fixed story, yet from it, meaning glows. It marks seasons of growth, chapters of love, eras of quiet change that no clock could record. As night deepens, the brain naturally turns inward. It replays fragments of the day, strengthening some, discarding others. Each dream is both archive and creation. In the morning, we wake slightly rewritten, still ourselves, but updated by sleep. Through this gentle work, memory keeps time alive within us, even as we rest outside it. So as you listen now, if an old scene comes to mind, don't push it away. Let it drift by like a familiar star returning in orbit. It's not here to trap you in the past, but to remind you that your mind is capable of traveling anywhere. Every recollection is a quiet form of time travel, and every breath you take marks your return to the present, renewed. Tonight, your memories will keep their own watch while you sleep. They'll sort themselves softly, like pages turning in the dark. And when morning light reaches your eyes, they'll be waiting, rearranged but intact, threads in the long tapestry of who you are. The body can move only forward through time, 1 second at a time. But the mind quietly and without effort can move anywhere. It can drift backward to the warmth of a forgotten morning, or forward to a day that hasn't yet happened. It can leap decades in an instant, and return in the same breath. Inside thought, past and future are doors without locks. Scientists call this ability mental time travel. It's what allows us to remember, to imagine, to plan, to dream. It's the foundation of identity, the reason we know who we are and what we've been. When you think of your childhood or picture yourself years from now, the same brain regions light up. The difference between memory and imagination is smaller than it feels. Both are built from the same raw material, experience rearranged. Think of the mind as a stage. Each act of recollection or anticipation is a new scene played by the same cast: emotion, image, voice, place. Memory pulls the props from storage. Imagination repaints them in fresh colors. You are both audience and performer, watching the story while creating it. In this theater, time is flexible, obedient, almost kind. This flexibility is a quiet miracle. Without it, we couldn't learn from mistakes, feel nostalgia, or prepare for what's to come. It gives us continuity, the thread that ties morning to evening, year to year. It's what allows you to fall asleep tonight, already holding the promise of tomorrow. Neuroscientists have traced this phenomenon to networks linking the hippocampus, prefrontal cortex, and a region poetically named the Fun-Default Mode network. This network hums when the mind is at rest, when you're daydreaming, recalling, or drifting between thoughts. In those moments, your brain isn't idle. It's wandering through time, rehearsing possibilities, building the story of self. Even in sleep, this quiet circuitry continues, weaving scenes that never happened from the threads of those that did. Imagine standing on the shore of a vast lake. The past stretches behind you like one horizon, the future ahead like another. Each ripple on the surface is a thought, moving outward until it fades into stillness. You can't step into the water, but your reflection can reach both sides at once. That reflection is memory and imagination combined. A bridge of awareness, connecting everything you've been with everything. When people visualize the future, their predictions are often tinted by emotion. Optimism paints brighter skies, worry adds clouds. The same bias colors are memories. Joy amplifies the good, Sorrow deepens the shadow. But even when the picture isn't accurate, the act of painting it matters. It's how the brain learns compassion for its own story. You become, moment by moment, the artist of your personal timeline. Sometimes we revisit the past not to relive it, but to understand it differently. From the distance of years, we can see patterns that were hidden before, connections between choices, coincidences that now feel like threads in a design. That retrospective clarity can bring peace, as though we're finally able to slow the spinning wheel and read its symbols. Reinterpreting the past doesn't erase it, it releases it, allowing new meanings to form. In the same way, imagining the future can calm the present. When you picture yourself at rest, peaceful content, safe, the body responds as if that image were real. Heart rate slows, muscles ease, breath deepens. Visualization turns imagination into physiology. Athletes, artists, and meditators all use it instinctively. See the desired moment, and the mind begins to tune the body toward it. Time travel becomes therapy. There's a gentleness in remembering that every version of you, past, present, and future, is connected. The child who dreamed, the adult who worries, the elder who reflects, they share one consciousness unfolding through change. When you think kindly of who you once were, you send comfort backward through memory. When you imagine a peaceful tomorrow, you send reassurance forward. Dreams themselves are the most natural form of mental time travel. They blur chronology completely, placing old faces in new places, stitching hours into impossible sequences. In dreams, the laws of time dissolve and meaning replaces measurement. A conversation with someone long gone, a glimpse of a world that never was. Each moment in dream time feels real because it occupies the same emotional space as waking life. The dreamer doesn't ask when things happen. They simply happen. Writers and philosophers have long sensed this fluidity. Marcel Proust wrote of tasting a pastry that unlocked an entire childhood. T.S. Eliot called time a pattern of timeless moments. Each was pointing to the same quiet truth, that consciousness itself may be timeless, and what we call passing time is only its unfolding awareness. Perhaps memory and imagination are not opposites, but partners, mirrors facing each other, creating an infinite corridor of reflection. If you focus on that corridor, it can feel endless. Every remembered moment leads to a future possibility, and every imagined future pulls another memory into view. There's no strict border between them, only continuity. In that continuity lies a sense of wholeness, the feeling that your life, despite its changes, has always been one long present. So as you listen now, let your thoughts wander freely. Visit yesterday if it calls to you. Step quietly into tomorrow if curiosity leads you there. You can't get lost. Both paths end where you began, in awareness itself. And awareness, unlike time, never truly moves. It simply watches the river flow. Let that realization be soft and comforting. You are the traveler and the witness, the story and the storyteller. Every journey you take within thought brings you home to the same still center. Time may appear to carry you forward, but in truth, you're always right here, listening, breathing, surrounded by the quiet drift of your own imagination. When you drift into sleep, time loosens its grip. The steady sequence of seconds begins to ripple, bend and fold back upon itself. In dreams, the rules of duration dissolve entirely. A lifetime can pass between one breath and the next. Here, in this quiet inner world, the mind becomes both traveler and creator, shaping time to its will. Dreams are not random. They are rehearsals, reflections, and repairs. As the brain enters its nightly rhythms, electrical waves sweep through it like tides through a bay, carrying fragments of memory and emotion. These fragments gather into stories, images, and sensations that flicker behind closed eyes. A face from years ago may appear beside a moment from yesterday, and somehow the two feel natural together. In the logic of dreams, past and present coexist peacefully. Scientists studying REM sleep, the phase of vivid dreaming, have found that time within it stretches and contracts unpredictably. Brain scans show bursts of activity that match waking consciousness. Yet the sleeper perceives events unfolding at their own pace. A minute outside may hold an hour within. The mind, freed from the weight of real clocks, experiences time as pure imagination. Why does it do this? One reason may be emotional balance. During the day, experience floods the senses faster than it can be processed. Dreaming lets the brain replay and reframe those experiences in safety, stripping away urgency and adding understanding. Night turns the noise of life into a quiet hum. By morning, the stories that once unsettled us have softened at their edges. In dreams, memories often link with wishes, fears, or curiosity, threads woven together without linear order. You might find yourself walking through your childhood home, yet speaking with someone you've only just met. You might solve a problem that seemed impossible while awake, or hear music that has never been written. Such moments reveal the mind's true nature, endlessly creative, timeless in its reach. It does not move through time, it makes time. There's a special state that occurs as you're falling asleep, called hypnagogia. It's the borderland between waking and dreaming, when fragments of thought start turning into images. In this space, seconds blur. You may feel yourself falling, or hear a voice call your name, or see shapes floating in color. They last only moments, yet they feel endless. Artists and inventors have lingered in this threshold deliberately, catching ideas that surface when logic finally lets go. To them, and to the sleeper, time there feels like a gentle loop, beginning and ending at once. Another loop happens each night as sleep cycles repeat. Every 90 minutes, the body drifts through stages: light, deep, REM, and then rises again toward waking before descending once more. 5 or 6 such cycles fill an average night. Within each, dreams build, climax, fade, and begin anew. Your consciousness spirals through these layers like a diver gliding through luminous currents, each turn quieter than the last. The sense of continuity across these cycles creates the illusion of a single long narrative, though it's really a string of short plays tied together by feeling. Some dreams recur across years or decades, the same street, the same house, the same silent figure waiting beyond a door. These recurring dreams of ID are the mind's way of revisiting unresolved thoughts, as though it keeps leaving a bookmark at the same page of a long book. They remind us that the brain remembers even what we forget, that emotion has its own memory, patient and circular. Time loops appear in waking life too, though we rarely notice. Déjà vu, the eerie feeling of having lived a moment before, may arise when the brain's memory circuits misfire, briefly replaying an experience while it's still happening. For a heartbeat, perception and recollection overlap, creating the illusion of repetition. The result is strange yet soothing, a whisper from the mind that says, "Froon, you've been here before, and it's safe." Found. There's comfort in that echo. Dreams use it constantly, blending the familiar with the unknown. They repeat symbols, a staircase, a hallway, a vast open sky, each time shifting their meaning slightly. Over years, these motifs form your personal mythology, the language your unconscious speaks when words are asleep. Through them, it tells you stories about who you are becoming, just as much as who you were. When morning comes, most dreams vanish like mist. Only fragments remain: an image, a feeling, a half-remembered phrase. Yet the effects linger. Your mood, your clarity, your quiet sense of having traveled, all carry traces of where you've been in that inner realm. Even forgotten dreams leave fingerprints on the mind. They are the hidden editors of your memory, deciding which moments to keep and which to let fade. Consider how a single night can feel longer than a week. You fall asleep after midnight and wake to the pale light of dawn. Yet inside your dreams, entire lifetimes may have unfolded. You may have watched cities rise, oceans freeze, loved ones age and return to youth. Your brain measures none of it. It experiences only depth, not duration. When you wake, a lingering calm often follows. Not because the dream was real, but because, for a while, you lived outside time. This gentle distortion of hours is what makes dreaming so restorative. It reminds the mind that time is not a cage but a fabric, and that fabric can fold in infinite ways. Every night, without effort, you become a traveler beyond seconds and seasons, and you awaken renewed because of it. Even now, as you listen, your brain begins to hum at the edges of sleep, preparing the doorway. You may already feel the first signs: thoughts losing shape, sounds stretching into silence, the border blurring. Let yourself cross it when it comes. There's nothing to fear on the other side, only stories waiting to be told and retold until they turn into rest. Dreams are the mind's way of keeping you safe while you wander. They loop you gently through time, always bringing you back to the present, back to breath, back to the soft rhythm of life continuing. And when you wake, you'll find that time too has traveled for you. The world outside will be brighter, quieter, patient as ever, its own kind of dream still unfolding. There are few sensations as universal as waiting, the pause between desire and fulfillment, question and answer, departure and arrival. It stretches the minutes until they lose proportion, and in that stretch, time seems to change texture. We know it hasn't truly slowed, yet the feeling is unmistakable. Waiting is time made visible. Picture a child counting the seconds before their birthday, or a traveler glancing again and again at a clock in an airport terminal. The same numbers pass, but they drag. The mind, unoccupied by action, begins to measure itself instead. Each heartbeat becomes a metronome, each breath a small reminder that the world isn't moving as quickly as hope desires. In this space, time turns thick, like honey resisting the spoon. Psychologists have studied why waiting feels longer than it is. Part of the reason is quickie attention. When focused on the passage of time, the brain fills the gaps with self-generated markers, each tick of awareness counted separately. During engaging activity, those markers blur, the clock disappears. But in stillness, awareness sharpens, counting every moment as though to prove its own endurance. Emotion plays its part too. Anticipation stretches seconds, especially when outcome matters. A student waiting for exam results, a loved one waiting for news. Even the simple suspense before a message reply. Each moment expands in uncertainty. Dopamine, the brain's reward chemical, rises before a desired event. It fuels attention, but it also amplifies impatience. We feel the future leaning toward us but not yet touching. That nearness creates tension. The reverse is true when we dread something. An unpleasant appointment, a painful conversation. Our minds want to skip ahead, but avoidance keeps us anchored. We stare into time, willing it to vanish, yet awareness clings harder. The seconds crawl because we are pushing against them. Waiting becomes resistance measured in thought. Some people find beauty in these intervals. Poets call them the faint still points of existence, where the present expands until it becomes everything. In those pauses, nothing happens, and precisely because of that, we can feel life most clearly. The sound of rain on a window pane, the distant hum of traffic, the breath rising and falling. They are reminders that even waiting is movement in disguise. Consider the way plants wait for light, or the ocean for the pull of the moon. Their patience is not passive, it is alignment. In their slowness lies certainty. Humans, too, are built to wait, though modern life has made us forget. We tap fingers, check devices, fill quiet with noise. But deep down, the body remembers the rhythm of seasons, the long arc of growth, the hush before dawn. Waiting is not emptiness, it is preparation. There's a small experiment you can try right now. Close your eyes and count 10 slow breaths. At first it may feel tedious, even endless. But by the 7th or 8th breath, notice what happens. Awareness shifts from impatience to presence. The seconds don't change, your relationship with them does. Each breath becomes both measure and reward. The art of waiting is simply learning to find value inside the pause. In meditation practices, patience is trained by design. The practitioner sits, often with no goal but to observe. Time expands at first, then softens, then disappears. The boundary between waiting and being dissolves. Eventually, there's no sense of delay at all, only experience unfolding in its own pace. This gentle surrender rewires the brain's sense of duration, proving that time's heaviness is optional. The feeling of slowness also changes with age. Children live close to the present. Waiting feels unbearable because they have not yet built long timelines for comparison. A week can feel like a lifetime. Adults, surrounded by memories, perceive delay differently. They measure not just seconds but significance, what they're waiting for, what it might mean. Sometimes this wisdom brings peace, sometimes it adds weight. The trick, perhaps, is to borrow the child's wonder without the child's impatience. There's another layer, the social rhythm of waiting. Cues, red lights, loading screens, small modern rituals of surrender. In those moments, we're reminded that we share time with others. Each person waiting beside us carries their own internal clock, their own private hopes for acceleration. Seen that way, waiting becomes community, an unspoken coordination of patience. When we finally reach what we've been waiting for, time snaps back to normal speed, relief floods the body, and the memory of slowness fades quickly. That's why we so often forget that waiting too is life. It isn't a void between real events, but part of the same flow. The bud is not less alive than the bloom. The hush before music is still part of the song. Next time you find yourself checking the clock, try to soften your gaze. Listen for the faint hum beneath silence. Notice how even the still air vibrates with hidden movement, atoms colliding, the earth spinning, the heart pulsing. You are never truly stuck. Waiting is simply motion slowed enough to see. And as you rest here, hearing these words unfold at their own gentle pace, feel how your body begins to sync with that slowness. The muscles unclench, the breath deepens, the pressure to arrive melts away. You've already arrived. The moment you stop resisting time, waiting ends, not because the clock moves faster, but because you've stepped outside it. Let the pause be your refuge tonight. Between thought and dream, between inhale and exhale, you are perfectly on time. Attention is one of the rarest things in the modern world. We give it to everything and almost nothing at once, split across screens, headlines, and endless scrolls of color. But when attention slows, the world changes shape. A single sound becomes a landscape. A simple act becomes a meditation. Time itself begins to breathe again. To pay attention deeply is to stretch the present moment wider, as though prying open a window for light to pour through. You can test this anytime. Look closely at the movement of water, or the texture of a leaf, or the play of shadow across a wall. For a heartbeat, your mind stops searching and simply freezes. Those seconds feel longer not because the clock slows, but because you've entered time's center instead of standing outside it. Scientists call this heightened focus-uti temporal expansion. In those moments, neural activity in parts of the brain linked to self-awareness and timekeeping quiets down. Without that constant inner narration, without the voice that asks, "What next?" the sense of duration blurs into calm. You become participant instead of observer. Attention folds you into the moment you're noticing. This slow attention doesn't require silence, though silence helps. It's about giving your full awareness to what's already there. The hum of an appliance, the distant bark of a dog, the rhythm of your breathing, each sound can be an anchor. When you listen fully, the world seems to answer back, as though relieved to be heard again. Even ordinary noise becomes music. The painter Georgia O'Keeffe once said that nobody really sees a flower because it takes time to see. To truly notice, you have to let the rest of the world fade. That act of surrender is what transforms perception into presence. When you slow enough to witness the subtle shift of light on petals, or the faint scent carried by wind, you meet time on equal terms. It no longer hurries ahead, it sits beside you quietly attentive. In psychology, this state overlaps with what's called soin mindfulness. And it's not an exotic technique, it's the simple, ancient habit of noticing. Mindfulness teaches that attention is like sunlight. Whatever it touches grows warmer, more alive. When scattered, it barely lights the surface. When focused, it turns a seed into bloom. Your moments are those seeds. Try bringing slow attention to something mundane, washing your hands, drinking water, tying your shoes. Notice how these tiny rituals mark the day. Each contains texture, temperature, and rhythm you may have missed. The feel of cool water, the sound of fabric sliding, the scent of soap. Each is a miniature universe, existing fully only when seen. Time hides inside such details, waiting to be rediscovered. Neuroscience supports what poets have long known. Attention changes the brain itself. Repeated focus strengthens neural pathways, like tracing a path through tall grass, until it becomes clear and easy to follow. When attention is calm rather than forced, the nervous system shifts toward balance, heart rate slows, blood pressure eases, stress hormones fall. Many traditions use slow attention as a doorway to understanding. Monks trace sand mandalas grain by grain, knowing the pattern will be swept away. Gardeners prune with careful rhythm. Calligraphers breathe through every stroke. Each act requires patience, yet none feels like waiting. Time disappears into craftsmanship, awareness replaces measurement. Even conversation can become this kind of art. When you listen fully to another person, without preparing a response, seconds stretch. The speaker's words carry weight, and silence between sentences becomes a shared breath. This mutual slowing is connection in its purest form. It's what makes us remember not just what was said, but how it felt to be understood. Attention also deepens perception of beauty. When you linger on something lovely, a melody, a moonrise, The brain releases small bursts of dopamine and endorphins. Pleasure signals mark the moment as significant. The next time you encounter something similar, the memory returns with warmth. This cycle of attention and appreciation subtly rewires time. Moments of beauty become landmarks on your inner map of life. There's a hidden rhythm to sustained attention. At first, the mind resists, wandering every few seconds. But with gentle persistence, distractions fade. Awareness settles like dust in sunlight. When it does, a sense of ease replaces effort. This is the tipping point where attention becomes serenity, the exact moment where focus turns into flow. To cultivate this state, you don't need complex rules. Just choose one small thing each day to notice without hurry. It could be the pattern of light on your wall, the scent of rain, or the pause before a word leaves your mouth. Stay with it until you feel time soften around it. That's the moment you've stepped inside the art itself. Attention is love in its purest form. The act of saying to the world, I am here with you right now. Every time you practice it, you slow the turning of your own hours, not in reality, but in feeling. You make space for rest inside awareness. That space is where calm lives, where meaning collects quietly, and where sleep begins to gather at the edges of thought. So tonight, as you listen to these words, let attention drift softly inward. Notice the rhythm of your breath, the comfort of weight beneath you, the silence that surrounds your hearing. Each detail invites you deeper into the present. And the present, once entered fully, stretches wider than any future you could imagine. Here, in this pause between distractions, time is not a line but a circle, and you are resting at its center. The present moment is always here, yet it is the hardest place for the mind to stay. Thoughts reach backward to what has been or forward to what might come, like hands grasping at fog. Meanwhile, the now, the only real breath we ever take, quietly waits. Living in the present is less about holding still and more about finally noticing where you already are. When you pause long enough, you can feel the difference. The noise inside fades, and the world grows vivid again. Colors sharpen, sounds deepen, and sensations return to their original size. A sip of water becomes cool light. A breeze feels like language on your skin. Nothing new has appeared. Only attention has changed. The present was never hiding. It simply needed space to be seen. We measure, predict, plan, and review, but rarely inhabit the tiny bridge of now connecting memory to possibility. Our minds become full of elsewhere, yet even a single conscious breath can reset everything. Inhaling is arrival, exhaling is release. Between them lies stillness, the pause where time stands open. The present doesn't demand perfection or silence. It asks for honesty. What is happening right now? In this moment, your heart is beating, air moves in and out, gravity holds you gently to the earth. That's all. And somehow that is enough. To live here fully is to see that completeness hides in simplicity. Psychologists describe flow, the state where awareness merges with action and the sense of time fades. Artists, athletes, even gardeners experience it. But flow isn't limited to great performances. It lives in any act done with full presence. When you chop vegetables, write a note, or listen without interruption, the edges between you and the task blur. You are both doer and doing, existing entirely in the moment's rhythm. This is living now, not racing through it. One of the mind's quiet miracles is its ability to return. No matter how far it wanders, it can always step back into the present with a single breath. The more you practice this return, the faster it happens. Eventually, the present becomes a home you can reach without travel, a familiar doorway that always stands open. Spiritual traditions have described this doorway in countless ways. Some call it mindfulness, others simple awareness. They all point to the same feeling, the sense that life is happening not later, not before, but twinkly here. When monks meditate, they are not escaping the world. They are stepping completely into it. When a poet watches sunlight move across a floor, they are practicing the same devotion. Presence is reverence disguised as attention. The science of presence is quietly astonishing. Brain scans show that during deep awareness, regions linked to rumination and worry go still. The prefrontal cortex, the planner and critic, softens its voice. Activity increases in sensory areas instead: touch, sound, sight. Your biology adjusts to presence, cortisol drops, serotonin rises, immune responses improve. To live now is to heal cell by cell. Yet presence isn't permanent. It comes and goes like tide. Distraction will always return. Memories, to-do lists, imagined futures. When it does, patience is the practice. Noticing that you've left the moment tiny part of the moment. Each gentle return strengthens the bridge back to calm. You do not fail when the mind wanders. You succeed every time you guide it home. There's a story told by meditation teachers. A student asked, "How long will it take me to find peace?" The teacher replied, "If you're always thinking about finding it, forever. If you start paying attention to the step you're on right now." The lesson isn't about speed, it's about contact. The present is peace already. The search only distracts from it. Think of time as a vast river. The past is upstream, the future downstream, and the present is the cool water touching your hands. You can't grasp the current, but you can feel it move. You can let it carry you instead of fighting its flow. The more you relax, the more buoyant you become. Eventually, effort disappears, and drifting becomes the truest kind of movement. Living in the present doesn't mean forgetting the past or ignoring what's ahead. It means holding both lightly, the way you might cradle two feathers. Memory gives meaning, imagination gives direction. The present gives depth to both. All three belong together, woven into the same pattern of awareness. You are the thread that connects them. Sometimes, when everything slows, when you sit quietly after a long day or listen to a faint sound fading into silence, you might sense a kind of fullness in emptiness. That's the moment stretching. It's what happens when you stop measuring life in hours and start feeling it in heartbeats. It's what happens when time and being finally overlap. So now take a deep breath. Notice the gentle pull of gravity, the rise and fall of your chest, the subtle warmth in your palms. For these few seconds, you are not in yesterday or tomorrow. You are perfectly placed within the smallest unit of eternity, this single now. And when the mind inevitably drifts again, as it will smile at it, welcome it back softly. Every return is another chance to live, to feel, to rest inside the only moment that ever truly exists. Deep inside the folds of your brain, millions of tiny rhythms are ticking. They don't sound like clocks. They pulse, flicker, and flow. Every thought, every word, every blink depends on these invisible beats of timing. You are full of clocks, each one silent, precise, and alive. Neurons don't use gears or springs. Their rhythm comes from electrical pulses, from chemicals drifting across microscopic gaps. Some fire dozens of times a second, others only once in a while, but together they form patterns of perfect coordination. Those patterns give shape to thought itself. If time is the canvas of reality, these pulses are the brushstrokes that make the picture appear. When you tap your foot to music or keep rhythm with your heartbeat, you're feeling the work of your internal metronome. The brain predicts the next beat before it arrives. It doesn't just react, it anticipates. That anticipation makes life feel continuous instead of fragmented. It's why you can catch a ball, finish someone's sentence, or sway with melody. Every small success is your brain's timing system running smoothly. Scientists have found that different parts of the brain handle different scales of time. The cerebellum keeps short beats, fractions of seconds, that guide movement. The basal ganglia track medium rhythms, helping with speech and decision. And the prefrontal cortex holds the longer arcs plans, days, years, the stories we tell ourselves about who we are. Together, they weave seconds into narratives, transforming motion into meaning. This internal symphony plays even when you're still. Each breath marks a measure, each thought, a note. The body's natural cycles, the heartbeat, the breath, the slow oscillations of brain waves are synchronized like instruments in an orchestra that never stops performing. When everything is in tune, you feel clear, present, and alive. When one rhythm slips, we call it fatigue, anxiety, or confusion. It's as though the music has momentarily lost its tempo. You've probably felt this difference without naming it. There are days when the mind seems to move faster than the world, and others when the world races ahead. In both cases, perception and internal timing fall out of sync. But with rest or focus, the patterns realign and harmony returns. The world regains its natural speed. Sleep helps with this calibration. During deep rest, neurons fire in slow waves, resetting the timing circuits that daylight scattered. Dreams, with their bending of hours and scenes, act like gentle recalibrations, stretching the mind's sense of time so it doesn't grow rigid. When you wake, your internal clocks begin again, tuned to light, sound, and motion. It's an ancient ritual repeated every morning, the mind synchronizing itself to the dawn. Even perception itself depends on timing. The brain takes a fraction of a second to process visual information, yet we see the world as immediate. It's because the brain predicts where things will be by the time the signal reaches awareness. You are always living a little in the future, guided by patterns so quick you never notice them. This gentle illusion allows life to feel seamless, a quiet miracle of prediction. Sometimes, in moments of shock or awe, those rhythms change. Neural signals flood faster or slower, stretching perception. That's why time seems to slow during surprise or danger, and why it speeds when joy absorbs you completely. The brain's clocks, though automatic, are not mechanical. They respond to emotion, chemistry, and attention. They remind us that time, even inside us, is a living thing. Researchers have watched neurons pulse in patterns that match our sense of duration. If you ask someone to wait 10 seconds before pressing a button, certain brain cells fire in slow waves that last almost exactly that long. When people misjudge the interval, pressing too early or too late, the rhythm of those neurons has shifted. Our sense of time is a biological melody, sometimes in tune, sometimes wandering off key. The wonder of these inner clocks is that they communicate across the entire body. Heartbeats adjust to breathing, breathing adjusts to emotion, emotion changes neural rhythm loops back to heartbeat. It's a web of timing that never ends. Even digestion and immune responses follow circadian pulses, harmonizing with the light-dark cycle that has guided life since its beginning. You are not keeping time. You are time. A living rhythm moving through form, meditation, music, and even gentle walking can tune these rhythms deliberately. When you breathe slowly, brain waves and heart rate begin to sync. When you listen to calm, repetitive sound, neural oscillations match its tempo. This process, called entrainment, is the science behind tranquility. It's why ocean waves, steady rain, or the soft ticking of a clock can make you sleepy. They coax your inner patterns into harmony. In this way, your brain is both musician and listener, conductor and audience. It keeps the tempo of life while also dancing to it. Every time you pause to notice the rhythm of your breath or heartbeat, you're hearing that internal orchestra. The music is always there. You simply have to quiet the noise to recognize it. So, as you rest here, let those rhythms align again. Feel the steady beat of your pulse under your fingertips. Feel your lungs fill and empty in quiet repetition. Each cycle is a clock hand, sweeping gently forward. You don't have to measure it. You only need to feel it. In that awareness, the mind and body begin to play in unison once more. You are a symphony of seconds, an unfolding of patterns older than stars, and every note of that music is perfectly on time. If you close your eyes for a moment, you'll notice something curious. Even when the world disappears from sight, the feeling of time remains unbroken. Thoughts come and go, breaths rise and fall, and yet there's a thread connecting it all. A sense that you are still here. That thread is continuity, the mind's quiet masterpiece. Without it, experience would be a strobe light flashes of perception with darkness between. But the brain refuses to live in fragments. Instead, it stitches milliseconds together, weaving them into a seamless film. Every sight, every sound, every heartbeat is buffered, smoothed, and placed in order. You're actually living a fraction of a second behind the present, but it feels immediate because the brain fills the gaps with prediction. This is how reality stays continuous, like a melody that never breaks its tune. The hippocampus, the same region that shapes memory, plays a large role here. It acts as a bridge between what just happened and what's happening now. When you listen to a sentence, the first words linger in temporary memory while the next arrive, allowing understanding to form. Without that overlap, language would collapse into noise. Continuity is comprehension. It turns chaos into meaning. Vision works this way too. Every time your eyes move, a quick motion called a physicide, they briefly stop seeing. For a split second, the world vanishes. Yet you never notice, because your brain blends each frozen image with the next, erasing the blank spaces. What you perceive as a steady gaze is really a flicker stitched into flow. The mind edits its own movie as it plays. Even your sense of self depends on this quiet editing. Each second, billions of neurons fire in changing patterns, none lasting long. Still, you feel like the same person you were a moment ago. Continuity creates the illusion of identity, an ongoing story told across billions of brief chapters. You are not a single snapshot. You are the motion between them. Philosophers have wondered for centuries whether continuity is truth or trick. If every cell in the body changes, if memories shift slightly each time they're recalled, what anchors the eye that persists? Perhaps nothing but rhythm, the rhythm of remembering, anticipating, and connecting. The self may be a song rather than a thing, a pattern that repeats with small variations, but never loses its theme. Science supports this poetic idea. Brain imaging shows that during rest, even when we are not actively thinking, networks of neurons rehearse familiar sequences. They replay fragments of experiences in the same order, maintaining a kind of narrative rehearsal. It's as if the brain whispers to itself, "You are still you." That rehearsal preserves coherence across sleep, distraction, and change. There's comfort in knowing that continuity is not perfection, but persistence. It doesn't require unbroken attention, only the willingness to return. When you meditate or daydream, attention drifts and reassembles, yet the stream of consciousness flows on. Like a river meeting rocks, it curves, eddies, and finds its way again. The shape of the current is what matters, not the interruptions along the bank. Emotion also plays a role in continuity. Feelings act as threads that connect moments across time. Joy colors one sequence, sorrow another, calm yet another. When you recall a joyful day, your body reproduces the chemistry of that time. When you imagine a coming challenge, adrenaline prepares you again. Through emotion, the past and future keep whispering to the present, ensuring that life feels like one unfolding story rather than scattered scenes. This mechanism is also what gives dreams their seamless flow. Even as they leap between impossible settings, the emotional tone carries over fear, wonder, longing, peace. The heart, not logic, holds continuity in sleep. That's why you can travel from childhood to adulthood within a single dream and feel that it makes sense. The mind cares less about sequence than about feeling. Continuity is delicate though. Stress, fatigue, or trauma can disrupt it. Moments feel disjointed. Hours vanish or stretch beyond recognition. In those times, grounding practices, touching a familiar object, breathing slowly, hearing your own name, help rethread the story. They remind the body and mind that the present still belongs to the same line as everything before. Awareness is the needle that repairs the fabric. There's a profound peace in realizing that continuity doesn't depend on memory alone. Even if details fade, the rhythm of existence carries on. The heart keeps time, the breath keeps measure, the earth spins. Dawn follows night. These cycles are the larger continuity that holds us all. When we lose our personal thread, we can rest in these greater ones, knowing the pattern persists. Think of the moments right before sleep, when thoughts begin to blur and dissolve. The day's edges soften, identity loosens. Yet you don't vanish. Something watches the fading, peaceful and constant. That watcher, the quiet awareness beneath thought, may be the purest form of continuity we know. It has no beginning and no end. It simply observes moment to moment, the endless unfolding of time. So as you listen now, let that continuity reassure you. You don't have to hold each second tightly. They're already linked. Every breath, every sound, every heartbeat is part of the same river of awareness flowing through you. Let it move at its own pace. There's no need to remember or predict, just float. Continuity will carry you, as it always has, toward rest, toward renewal, toward another sunrise waiting to arrive right on time. There are moments when the clock seems to vanish. You look up from what you're doing and realize hours have passed, or perhaps only minutes, yet you can't tell which. The boundary between effort and ease has dissolved. In those rare spaces, time doesn't march forward. It melts into experience. Psychologists call this foodie flow. Most people simply call it peace. Flow can happen anywhere. Painting, running, gardening, reading, even watching light move across a wall. It begins when attention and action fuse so completely that self-consciousness fades. There is no observer and no performance, only participation. The brain's chatter about past and future falls, silent, leaving a gentle hum of presence. Inside that hum, time has no edges. Neuroscientists studying flow see a quiet rearrangement in the brain. Regions linked to self-evaluation and planning go still. Activity shifts towards sensory and motor networks. Blood flow changes pattern, supporting exactly what you're doing and nothing else. The result is efficiency so smooth, it feels effortless. The mind stops counting and starts being. This is the closest most of us come to timelessness while awake. Artists often describe it as being carried. Writers say the words arrive on their own. Musicians feel as though they're listening rather than playing. During these states, minutes collapse into a single sustained note of awareness. The experience is joyful but quiet, energized yet serene, the paradox of doing without trying. You don't need talent or mastery to touch it. Any rhythm that steadies the senses can open the doorway, sweeping a floor, stitching fabric, walking a familiar path. When repetition becomes graceful instead of mechanical, when attention rests rather than strains, you begin to slip through time's grasp. Each motion flows into the next like water over stone. Meditation moves toward the same horizon from the opposite direction. Instead of focusing outward on creation, it turns inward toward stillness. With practice, even thought slows until pauses widen between them. At some point, those pauses merge into a continuum, a stretch of awareness unbroken by mental noise. For a moment, you sense existence without the measure of seconds. The body breathes, the mind observes, time disappears. Monks and mystics have tried to describe this state for centuries. Some call it union, others emptiness, others awakening. Neuroscience calls it transient hypofrontality, a temporary quieting of the brain's time, keeping regions. The name doesn't matter, the feeling does. It is relief from gravity, an exhale that lasts as long as it needs to. The loss of time also explains why relaxation feels restorative. When attention stops bouncing between past regrets and future plans, the nervous system recalibrates. Stress hormones subside, heart rate synchronizes with breath, digestion deepens, immunity strengthens. Physiology mirrors perception. When time slows inside the mind, the body follows suit. Rest becomes not absence of activity, but harmony without urgency. Children taste this timelessness easily. Watch a child absorbed in play, minutes or hours mean nothing. Their laughter fills the gap where measurement could have been. To them, the moment is the whole world. Adulthood teaches clocks and calendars, but the capacity for immersion never leaves. It only waits to be remembered. Sometimes, time disappears through awe. Stand beneath a vast sky, listen to thunder rolling across hills, or watch snow falling so thickly that sound itself seems to hush, or expands perception outward until personal timelines dissolve. The self becomes small, but not lost, just part of something immeasurably larger. That smallness brings calm. There is comfort in belonging to infinity. Even sleep is a form of vanishing time. You close your eyes and surrender consciousness. Hours pass without witness. The brain, however, is busy sorting memories, balancing chemicals, repairing cells. When you wake, it feels as if no time at all has passed, yet the body has traveled through cycles of renewal. In dreams or deep rest, the keeper of minutes steps aside so healing can occur unhindered. There's another version of timelessness that comes from love. Moments shared deeply listening, holding, simply existing together, seem to stretch endlessly. The nervous systems of two people synchronize, heartbeats align within milliseconds. Scientists can measure this resonance in laboratories, but the experience itself needs no proof. It is the most ordinary magic there is. Two clocks, ticking as one. When people near death describe flashes of their entire lives, it may be another meeting of mind and timelessness. Under extreme emotion, the brain releases a flood of neurochemicals, lighting memory circuits all at once. Past, present, and possibility appear together, not sequentially, but simultaneously. It's the ultimate compression of time into meaning, a reminder that awareness can hold more than chronology ever could. To practice timelessness, you don't have to chase extremes. Simply notice when you lose track of the clock for gentle reasons. A conversation that lingers, music that carries you, quiet moments when you forget to check the hour. Those are openings. You can widen them with gratitude, attention, and breath. Try it now. Take one slow inhale, counting silently to 4. Hold the breath briefly. Exhale to 6. Notice how the numbers themselves begin to fade. All that remains is rhythm. In that rhythm, seconds dissolve into sensation. You are here, but here has no length, no before or after, only the steady comfort of being. When time disappears, what's left isn't emptiness. It's awareness freed from boundaries. It's the part of you that watches without hurry, the same witness that has been present in every stage of your life. It doesn't age. It doesn't move. It simply observes the dance of change around it, always at rest in the center of the circle. So let the next few breaths arrive without counting. Let sound, thought, and memory drift together like clouds merging in a pale sky. If minutes slip away unnoticed, let them. You're not losing time. You're returning to the space it came from. And there, everything is quiet, connected, and perfectly whole. If you ever feel that time is moving too quickly, step outside and look to nature. Here, nothing rushes. The rhythm of the world is measured not in minutes, but in cycles. Sunrise and sunset, seed and bloom, tide and retreat. Each rhythm is ancient, patient, and endlessly repeating. To witness it is to remember that time itself can be soft. The earth spins once each day, orbiting the sun once each year. From those two motions come almost every pattern of life, light and dark, warmth and cold, waking and sleep. Plants stretch toward the sun in the morning and fold in at dusk. Birds migrate with invisible calendars written into their bones. Whales sing across oceans when the seasons turn. Everything alive moves to a rhythm older than memory. For humans, these cycles are more than background. They are the quiet metronomes of well-being. Circadian rhythms tune our hormones to daylight. Temperature and mood rise with dawn and rest with dusk. Even our organs follow the Earth's clock. Liver, heart, lungs, and skin each have hours of peak activity. We are, in every sense, children of the sun's rotation, carrying the day within our blood. But beyond the daily pulse lies a slower breathing of the planet. Winter tightens its grip, then loosens into spring. Summer expands into abundance. Autumn gathers, releasing what's no longer needed. This turning never stops, and yet it never hurries. Each season blends quietly into the next, reminding us that change need not be abrupt. It can be rhythmic, graceful, and kind. Think of a forest through the year. In spring, the light feels new, filtered through young leaves. By summer, the air hums with insects, full of heat and movement. Autumn arrives as a long exhale. Colors deepen, sounds grow muffled. Then winter comes, still and silver, not dead but resting. Time here is circular, not linear, an eternal return, not a countdown. Ancient cultures built their lives around these cycles. Stone circles, moon calendars, harvest festivals, all were expressions of gratitude to time's return. They measured months by the moon's phases, years by the sun's journey across the horizon. Their understanding was simple and profound. Time is not leaving us behind, it is looping through us. Each dawn is both new and familiar, an echo of every dawn before. In modern life, we often forget this. Artificial light erases the boundaries between day and night. Digital seasons never change. We wake at the same hour in winter and summer, eat the same foods year-round, live in rooms of steady temperature. The body, deprived of variation, quietly mourns. It was built for cycles, for darkness and brightness, work and rest, expansion and retreat. Without those contrasts, we lose our natural rhythm, and with it a sense of peace. But it's easy to return. Go outside at dusk and feel the air shift. Listen to how evening has a different sound than morning, the way wind lowers its voice, the way birds trade songs for silence. Notice how your own breath changes in response, how your shoulders ease as the light fades. This is the body remembering its place in the pattern. Every ecosystem carries its own tempo. Deserts move in long pauses. Rainforests thrum with constant vibration. The Arctic breathes in months, not days, and within each, creatures adapt. The hummingbird's heart beats 1,000 times a minute, the whale's once every few seconds, yet both live perfectly in tune with their surroundings. There is no correct speed, only harmony. Even the ocean follows its metronome, tides drawn by the moon's gravity, rising and falling with steady precision. Twice each day, water reshapes the edges of continents, reminding us that time has weight. The same pull that moves entire seas also stirs the fluids within us. Blood pressure, sleep cycles, and emotional tides all ebb and flow in quiet resonance with lunar rhythm. We are tethered to the sky more deeply than we realize. When storms pass, forests bow but do not break. When droughts linger, seeds wait. Nature knows how to pause without despair. It trusts the return of rain because rain has always returned. Perhaps this is the wisdom we need most. Patience born from repetition. The assurance that what leaves will come again, that stillness is only the halfway point of motion. In these cycles lies a gentle comfort. Even endings are beginnings rehearsing themselves. Leaves decay into soil, feeding roots that will one day lift new leaves. A wave collapses only to rise again from its own foam. To live with awareness of this rhythm is to see continuity everywhere. Loss becomes transformation, waiting becomes gestation. Take a moment to imagine your own life as a series of seasons. There have been springs of discovery, summers of energy, autumns of change, winters of reflection. Each carried beauty and necessity. You are not outside these patterns. You are one of them. And just as surely as morning follows night, new light follows darkness in you too. So, tonight when you feel the day fading, let it fade completely. Let the rhythm of the planet rock you the way it has rocked oceans and forests. For millennia, the same cycles that turn the stars and seasons move quietly through your heartbeat. You don't have to keep time. You already are time resting between two eternities of motion. If you want to know what patience looks like, look at a tree. It grows so slowly that the eye can't see it move. Yet year by year it stretches higher, stronger, steadier. Its rings hold the memory of rain and drought, warmth and cold, each circle a soft archive of the seasons. To stand beside an old tree is to stand inside the history of light. Some trees live longer than empires. The bristlecone pines of California have watched nearly 5,000 winters come and go. They were seedlings when the pyramids were young, and they still stand now, their bark twisted like ancient scrolls. Each scar and knot records a dialogue with wind and weather. They are living calendars, counting not days but centuries. Time for a tree moves differently. It isn't rushed by clocks or calendars. Its pace is the slow exchange of sunlight into sugar, of water into wood. Every leaf is a tiny clock face, opening at dawn and closing at dusk, marking the rhythm of survival. Yet the tree doesn't measure progress in moments. It measures in endurance. To it, change is steady, deliberate, inevitable. Deep beneath the soil, roots map another kind of time. They follow the memory of past rains, curving toward buried nutrients. They grow toward what once was, guided by echoes in the earth. In this way, a tree remembers downward, even as it reaches upward. It connects past and present through the invisible architecture of patience. Scientists have found that trees communicate underground through fungal networks that link their roots. They share sugars, send warning signals, and balance resources. Forests, then, are not collections of individuals, but a single, breathing organism. And the tempo of that conversation is glacial minutes, hours, even days between messages. For a tree, slowness is not limitation, it's language. Geological time is even slower still. Where a tree counts centuries, mountains count ages. Rocks rise, erode, and rise again through cycles that make a human life seem like a flicker. Beneath our feet, tectonic plates drift at the speed fingernails grow, an inch or two each year, yet over eons they build continents and tear them apart. To watch such change is impossible. To imagine it is humbling. Every grain of sand on a beach was once part of something vast, a cliff, a coral reef, a volcanic plain. Each was shaped by wind, water, and time, worn down until it could flow. Even the ground beneath your home is ancient dust, recycled from worlds long gone. Geological time is the slow heartbeat of the planet, steady and unending. It teaches that nothing is ever lost, only transformed. When you hold a stone, you're holding a piece of history older than life. The atoms within it may have formed inside a star that died before the Earth was born. They traveled through cosmic dust clouds, gathered into this planet, cooled, crystallized, and waited billions of years for a moment like this, where a hand might lift them from the ground. What you touch in that moment is eternity condensed into form. Volcanoes, earthquakes, glaciers, all are chapters in the planet's autobiography. Each mountain range is a frozen wave in the ocean of time, caught mid-motion by the limits of human perception. To the Earth, 1,000,000 years is a breath. We are living inside that slow inhale right now, unaware of the vast exhale still to come. There's comfort in this perspective. When we measure life against geologic scales, our worries shrink to their true size. The deadlines, the clocks, the anxious counting, all dissolve against the patience of stone. Rocks don't hurry yet, they accomplish everything. Mountains rise, valleys form, rivers carve their way home. Slow time is creative time. Trees echo this same truth above ground. Their stillness hides constant transformation, sap climbing, leaves turning sunlight into energy, bark renewing from within. You may think they are motionless, but a tree is always in conversation with gravity, wind, and light. It bends to survive storms, grows toward the gaps where sun filters through, and, when old, returns to the soil it once grew from. Every stage serves the next. A forest is a slow choir. Its song spans centuries, layered with harmonies of birth, growth, decay, and rebirth. The whisper of leaves in wind is only the surface melody. Beneath it, a lower note hums, the deep vibration of time itself, moving through wood and root. When you walk through such a place, you are walking through the music of patience. Human life, brief as it is, fits perfectly within this symphony. We breathe the oxygen trees make, drink water filtered by stone, and walk on the dust of ancient mountains. We are younger versions of the same materials, shaped into awareness for a while before returning to the larger cycle. Even memory, our personal measure of time, is built from the same chemistry that records the age of fossils and rings of trees. Next time you find a fallen branch or smooth pebble, pause for a moment. Notice how solid it feels, how unhurried. Both have seen storms and seasons beyond counting. Hold them as reminders that endurance is a form of grace. You don't have to rush to matter. You only have to last, to grow, to change gently. Geological time and arboreal time share one quiet message. Longevity isn't about resistance, but about rhythm. The tree sways with the wind, the mountain yields to rain. Neither fights time. They collaborate with it. Maybe that's the real lesson. Peace doesn't come from escaping time, but from learning its tempo. In every breath, every step, every small act of patience, we echo the slow intelligence of the earth. So tonight, imagine lying beneath an ancient tree, the ground cool and steady beneath you. Above, the stars move almost imperceptibly across the sky. Beneath, roots stretch toward stone that remembers oceans long vanished. Between the two, you rest another small pattern of life within a much larger design. Time surrounds you here, but it does not chase. It simply holds you, as it has held everything that ever was. If you listen closely enough, you can feel the earth breathing, not with lungs or air, but with motion and rhythm, slow tides of energy that rise and fall beneath every living thing. Winds cross the oceans like sighs, currents drift through seas as steady as heartbeats. Somewhere deep inside the planet, molten rock shifts and circulates, pushing continents slowly across its surface. All of it moves to a quiet, ancient pulse. That pulse is constant, yet subtle. Seismologists record it as microtremors, tiny vibrations that hum through rock and soil even when the world feels still. They call it the Earth's hum, a background resonance caused by waves colliding on distant coasts and echoing through the crust. You can't hear it with your ears, but it's always there, a faint music played by water, wind, and gravity. Every mountain, valley, and forest moves in time with that hidden song. The atmosphere has its own rhythm, too. Jet streams circle the globe in endless loops. Air rises where it's warm, falls where it's cool, creating a planetary heartbeat measured in pressure and wind. Every weather pattern you've ever felt, every raindrop, breeze, or thunderclap, is part of this vast respiration. The sky inhales sunlight by day and exhales it by night, balancing energy with each rotation. The oceans follow suit. Tides rise and fall under the pull of the moon, reshaping coastlines twice each day. Currents weave invisible highways around the world, carrying warmth from the tropics to the poles and bringing cold water back again. In their turning, they stabilize the planet's temperature, feeding life everywhere. A single drop of seawater may travel thousands of miles in a century-long loop before returning to where it began. This is patience on a planetary scale. Even the magnetic field that shields us from solar storms pulses and flickers. It expands and contracts as streams of charged particles from the sun wash over Earth's atmosphere. Sometimes these invisible waves paint the sky with color, auroras swirling in green and violet curtains. They're not just beautiful, they're proof that the planet is alive with motion, translating energy from space into art. If you could step back far enough farther than satellites, beyond the orbit of the moon, you'd see the Earth not as static, but as a shimmering sphere of movement. Clouds turning, oceans breathing, continents drifting, lights blinking in the dark. From that distance, it would look almost like a single organism, veins of rivers, lungs of forests, heartbeat of seasons. Everything connected, everything alive. Our bodies mirror these same rhythms. The human heartbeat averages 70 beats per minute, but its variations often sync with external cycles. Our brain waves, our circadian rhythm, even our hormone levels subtly shift with day length, temperature, and light. When you stand barefoot on the ground, tiny electrical exchanges occur between you and the planet, signals aligning your internal patterns with its field. The calm many people feel in nature isn't mystical, it's resonance. We are tuning forks shaped to Earth's frequency. Researchers studying what they call the Schumann resonancy, the electromagnetic hum produced by lightning around the world, found that it vibrates close to 8 cycles per second. Curiously, that's similar to the brain's alpha wave frequency, the pattern associated with calm wakefulness and relaxation. Perhaps that's why walking under open sky feels grounding. Our neural rhythm meets the Earth's. In that alignment, thought slows, muscles release, and time itself seems to soften. The planet's pulse is visible in smaller ways too. Watch a field of grass in the wind. It waves in long breaths, each gust answering another. Watch the sea push against the shore, then withdraw, pausing before returning. Watch the flicker of fireflies, their lights flashing in synchrony across meadows, guided by instinct and chemistry, yet forming a living rhythm. Even in chaos, there is pattern. Rain cycles through its own loop, evaporation, condensation, release. A drop that falls on your skin tonight might return as fog centuries from now, or freeze in a glacier before melting into another sea. Water never truly ends its journey. It only changes form. In the same way, energy within the planet is recycled, endlessly. Volcano to mountain, to sand to sea. Every process finds its place in the beat of the whole. If the Earth could dream, perhaps it would dream in waves. Each tide, each breeze, each turning of the moon would be part of its slow heartbeat. We are small cells within that dreaming body, living for a few bright seconds compared to its ages. Yet we share its pulse. Our breaths rise and fall in rhythm with it whether we notice or not. There's a strange peace in realizing that this pulse continues whether we're awake or asleep, anxious or calm. The planet doesn't measure our days or our worries. It simply moves, balancing itself in a choreography that has lasted billions of years. Even when cities hum with noise and light, the deeper rhythm remains untouched beneath it all, patient as gravity. When life feels chaotic, it can help to remember this. Go outside, place a hand on a tree trunk, or sit beside moving water. You'll feel something steady beneath the surface, a vibration, a hum, a rhythm too slow to count. That is the Earth reminding you of scale. You belong to a larger heartbeat, one that has never missed a beat. Tonight, as you rest, that pulse continues under you. Tides move, air shifts, tectonic plates glide, and deep within, molten rock circulates like blood. The planet hums softly beneath your dreams, ancient and unhurried. You are part of that rhythm now, one breath, one heart, one gentle vibration among countless others. Let it lull you. Let the pulse of the planet steady your own. Time will keep flowing, but here, in this moment, you can rest inside the beat that began before you and will continue long after, endlessly patient, endlessly kind. Time and emotion are partners in an invisible dance. When your heart races, time seems to rush with it. When you feel calm, it slows and stretches, wide and still. The clock on the wall may keep perfect rhythm, but the mind's clock follows feeling. Joy makes time fly, sorrow makes it crawl, and peace makes it dissolve completely. Think of a moment when you were deeply happy, laughing with friends, watching a sunset, holding someone you love. Those hours seem to vanish, yet when you recall them, they shine brighter than entire weeks. Pleasure compresses time in the moment, but expands it in memory. It's as though joy burns so hot that the mind can't count while it's happening, and only later measures the glow it left behind. Now think of waiting for something painful or uncertain, the result of a test, the end of an illness, a difficult goodbye. Each minute stretched unbearably. The body's stress response tightened muscles, quickened pulse heightens awareness. Every second becomes an event. The brain, flooded with cortisol and adrenaline, records more details than usual, making the passage of time feel longer. Emotion, it turns out, is a lens, magnifying or shrinking our experience of the moment. Scientists studying this effect have found that happiness, fear, boredom, and wonder each warp time differently. When we're afraid, perception accelerates. When we're engaged or in awe, time slows in a way that feels pleasant. When we're bored, it slows uncomfortably, each moment heavy and uncooperative. But beneath all of these differences is a single truth. Emotion is how we feel time moving. Without feeling, time would pass unnoticed, like wind over stone. Happiness has a rhythm all its own. It pulses in laughter, in music, in the shared heartbeat of conversation. In joy, the brain releases dopamine, which boosts focus but quiets self-consciousness. That balance creates flow. We become immersed in the moment, free from counting, free from comparison. That's why we lose track of time when we're doing something we love. The mind stops narrating, and the experience becomes pure. The opposite happens when sadness or anxiety arrives. The mind begins measuring again, counting, checking, looping. The amygdala, the brain's emotional alarm system, keeps scanning for change, stretching perception. It's not cruelty, it's protection. By slowing time, the mind gives us space to think, to prepare, to survive. What feels like suffering is, in some quiet way, care. Even love reshapes time differently, depending on its form. New love races. Each meeting feels too short. Each separation too long. Familiar love slows, finding rhythm in routine, comfort in repetition. The same heartbeat that once quickened eventually learns to keep pace with another. In this constancy, time becomes less like a line and more like a circle returning, reassuring, steady. Artists and poets have always sensed this connection between time and feeling. They describe moments that seem to suspend the world, a kiss, a snowfall, a final glance before parting. In those instants, awareness narrows so completely that everything beyond it fades. What remains is sensation, warmth, light, breath. The soul steps outside the clock, and the present becomes infinite. Perhaps this is why nostalgia feels both sweet and sad. It blends emotions that pull time in opposite directions. Joy speeds it up, sorrow slows it down. Together they create a still point where the past feels vividly alive, even as we know it's gone. Nostalgia is time's echo returning as music. We listen not to remember perfectly, but to feel the rhythm again. Emotions also shape how long our days seem in memory. High-intensity experiences, fear, excitement, love leave dense imprints, neutral days fade. That's why a single extraordinary afternoon can feel longer in hindsight than a quiet week. It's not that time changed, but that we seeded feeling deepens our connection to existence. Emotion is the heartbeat of awareness. There's a gentle wisdom in recognizing this. If time bends toward feeling, then peace is the most generous tempo. Happiness may make time vanish, but serenity lets it stay. When you're calm, seconds seem wider, slower, more welcoming. It's as though the mind finally stops trying to own the moment and begins to live inside it. You can practice this anytime. Sit quietly, breathe deeply, and notice how emotion colors the seconds. Joy brightens them, worry darkens them, gratitude softens them. The more you notice, the more balanced they become. Awareness smooths the peaks and valleys. The body relaxes, the heart steadies, and time returns to its natural flow. Emotions, like weather, are temporary. Each passes through, reshaping the landscape, but never erasing it. If you're patient, even pain finds rhythm again. It softens, pauses, breathes, and in that pause, time feels kind. You begin to see that all emotions, even the hard ones, are ways of measuring being alive. Each heartbeat of joy or ache is another mark on the scale of existence. So when you feel your next happy hour slip by too quickly, don't mourn it. It's proof that you were fully present, so absorbed that the clock itself forgot you. And when minutes drag, when the heart feels heavy and slow, remember that the same elasticity protects you. It's time giving you space to heal. Whether it races or lingers, time and emotion are always on your side, teaching you to live, to notice, to rest inside the rhythm of feeling. Now, take a breath. Let the air move in and out, a pulse rise and fall. This too is emotion's rhythm, simple, steady, perfect. You are inside time, and time is inside you, moving together in one continuous, tender motion. Long after an event fades, the feeling it carried often lingers. We forget the words spoken, the exact weather, the colors of the room, but we remember how it felt. Emotion is the most durable form of memory. It etches itself not just in thought, but in chemistry, in heartbeat, in breath. We may not recall the story, yet the body keeps its echo. The brain stores emotional memories differently than neutral ones. When something matters deeply, the amygdala lights up, signaling to preserve it. That signal flows to the hippocampus, where experience becomes memory. The stronger the emotion, the more vivid the trace. It's a survival design: joy, fear, love, loss. These feelings teach us how to move through life. They are lessons written in sensation. Think of your earliest memory. Chances are, it's not a list of facts, but a feeling, perhaps safety, or wonder, or the soft confusion of discovery. The emotional tone is what survived, even if details blurred. As we age, those tones layer upon one another, shaping personality like rings in a tree. We become the sum of remembered feelings more than remembered events. There's a subtle truth in that. The story of your life isn't written only in what happened, but in how it felt to live it. Every joy, every sorrow, every quiet moment of peace leaves a residue in the nervous system. These residues influence future perception. When something feels familiar, it's often because the body has found an emotional rhyme, a small repetition in the poetry of experience. Emotion also changes how long memories feel. Moments of excitement or fear seem longer because they're encoded in more detail. Mundane stretches pass unnoticed and later collapse in recall. That's why childhood feels endless. In memory, its emotions were fresh and frequent. Each surprise, each discovery, left bright footprints in the mind's sand. Even joy can expand time in hindsight. When we look back on a season of happiness, it seems to glow with spaciousness. We may have felt it pass too quickly, but memory unfolds it gently, revealing layers we didn't see while living them. Pain, by contrast, can compress time in recollection. We know it lasted, but we prefer to keep it small. Memory edits experience not to deceive, but to protect. Neuroscientists have observed that the act of remembering reactivates the same neural circuits as the original event. When you recall a moment of calm, your body relaxes again. When you recall fear, the pulse quickens, palms warm, muscles tense. The mind cannot fully separate past from present emotion. To remember is to re-feel, at least in miniature. This is why old songs, scents, or voices can move us so strongly. They reopen the exact pathways of feeling. The scent of rain on dry soil, a familiar melody, the light of a certain hour, these are time machines of the heart. They pull us backward without warning, compressing years into seconds. Scientists call this 5D episodic resonance SED, but most of us simply call it nostalgia. It's a reminder that time in the mind is fluid. We travel across it daily, carried by emotion more than logic. Emotional memory also shapes empathy. When we see someone suffering or rejoicing, our mirror neurons echo their expression internally. The brain replays its own stored emotions to understand theirs. In this way, our memories of feeling connect us across time and personhood. The heart learns, remembers, and recognizes itself in others. We feel with them because once we felt like them. There's something healing about remembering emotions intentionally. To revisit joy reawakens gratitude. To revisit sadness with gentleness transforms it into wisdom. Feelings don't expire when acknowledged. They integrate. Memory, used kindly, becomes a bridge instead of a burden. It lets us look back without being pulled under. Sometimes, though, emotional memory lies dormant until the right moment. A smell, a sound, a small kindness can unlock what we thought was forgotten. Tears come, not from pain alone, but from recognition. We realize that the feeling never vanished, it was simply waiting for a safe return. The mind holds on until the heart is ready to release. The body also remembers through rhythm. Think of how certain movements, rocking, walking, humming, can soothe without words. They mimic the first sensations we ever knew, a heartbeat nearby, a mother's breathing, the ocean of the womb. Our earliest memories were felt long before we could think. That primal memory of safety stays in muscle and motion. It's why rocking chairs and lullabies calm us still. In a way, emotional memory is the soul's way of keeping time. It doesn't care for calendars. It measures by intensity, by meaning. It is circular, revisiting the same themes until understanding ripens. Love lost becomes love remembered, fear faced becomes courage stored. Through repetition, emotion matures into wisdom. As you lie here tonight, you might feel small echoes stirring, moments of joy, perhaps a pang of longing, a thread of gratitude. Let them come without analysis. They're simply memories reminding you that you've lived deeply, that time has passed through you as much as you have passed through time. Every feeling you've carried still exists as a quiet vibration, woven into the pattern of who you are. The beautiful thing is that memory of emotion can change. When you recall an old sadness with compassion, you rewrite it gently. Neurons reconnect in new ways, forming a softer version of the past. The pain doesn't vanish, but it transforms into understanding. This is how healing happens, not by erasing time, but by reimagining it with kindness. So tonight, if a memory comes, meet it like an old friend. Let it speak, let it fade when it's ready. Each remembered feeling is proof of your capacity to feel again, to keep growing, to stay open. And as those echoes settle, notice how calm follows, how the body, once reminded of love and loss, relaxes into gratitude for both. Time moves forward, but feeling loops like a melody, returning to its refrain. That repetition doesn't trap you, it comforts you, reminding you that life's rhythm continues, one tender note at a time. Nostalgia is one of time's kindest tricks. It reaches into the past, not to hurt but to soften. It arrives uninvited, through a scent, a melody, a flicker of memory, and suddenly, the heart is full of light that once was. It isn't only longing for what's gone, it's gratitude for having lived it at all. When nostalgia comes quietly, it can bring peace deeper than joy itself. The word comes from Greek roots, nostostei meaning homecoming, and phialgostai meaning ekialgosein meaning ache, an ache for home. But home, in nostalgia, isn't a place. It's a moment. It's the warmth of familiarity, the safety of what's already known, the simplicity of times before complication. We don't want to go back. We want to feel that sense of belonging again. Nostalgia slows time. For a few seconds, the mind stops moving forward. The rush of modern life pauses, replaced by a long, tender breath. In that pause, memory and present meet halfway, like two old friends sitting quietly together. It's no wonder that nostalgia feels restful. When we drift into it, we're not escaping time. We're folding it gently around us. Psychologists have found that nostalgic reflection can ease loneliness and even lower stress. When people recall cherished memories, their bodies relax, heart rate slows, warmth spreads, muscles unclench. It's as though the past is lending its calm to the present. Remembering connection reminds the body that it's safe again. The brain releases serotonin and oxytocin, the same chemicals that accompany affection. The result isn't sadness, it's comfort. We often think of nostalgia as looking backward, but in truth, it anchors us. It gives continuity to our story, a reminder that joy once existed and can exist again. When the present feels uncertain, nostalgia whispers, "You've made it through before, you will again, forward." That message doesn't belong to any one time. It flows through all of them. There are two kinds of nostalgia, the bright and the bittersweet. Bright nostalgia lifts us, coloring the present with golden memory. Bittersweet nostalgia brings a soft ache, reminding us of what has changed. Both serve the same purpose. They connect emotion to meaning. Without nostalgia, life would pass too cleanly. With it, we see the richness of continuity, how every joy leaves a gentle echo. Certain triggers summon nostalgia more easily than others. Music, especially, opens the door. A few notes from a forgotten song can collapse decades in an instant. The melody carries emotion as faithfully as scent carries air. So do photographs, letters, and the familiar texture of things once touched, a sweater, a book, the scent of wood after rain. Each object is a vessel of time, waiting patiently until attention lifts its lid. Even seasons awaken nostalgia. Autumn, with its colors fading into warmth, reminds us that beauty and impermanence can coexist. Winter recalls gatherings, quiet evenings, candles flickering against frost. Spring revives hope, the same kind we felt in childhood when everything was possible. Summer brings the echo of laughter carried on long, unhurried days. The earth itself remembers us through rhythm. Sometimes nostalgia can hurt, a yearning too sharp, a wish to return to what can't be regained. But even that ache has value. It proves that love left a mark, that life mattered enough to miss. If we meet nostalgia with compassion instead of resistance, it transforms from sorrow into serenity. It becomes a bridge rather than a wall. You can cross it anytime, knowing that what you loved still exists in the landscape of memory. The gentle power of nostalgia lies in its dual vision. It looks backward with affection and forward with reassurance. When you recall a childhood home, you remember not only where you were but who you were, curious, hopeful, innocent. Recognizing that self again reminds you that those qualities never truly left. They've been sleeping inside you, waiting for attention. In remembering, you bring them back to life. Writers sometimes call nostalgia time's lullaby. It rocks the mind between past and present, between loss and gratitude. The rhythm is always the same. Then remember, rest, release. We revisit what was, we dwell in it for a moment, and then we return softer, steadier, more whole. In this way, nostalgia is not just memory, it's medicine. You can invite this medicine gently. Close your eyes and recall a simple moment, a quiet morning light, a familiar voice, a taste of something you love. Don't try to hold it still, let it flicker and fade naturally. Notice how your breathing slows as you remember, how the body leans into the comfort of recollection. That's nostalgia healing you, reminding your nervous system that safety and warmth have existed before and will again. At night, nostalgia often drifts in just before sleep. It weaves old places into dreams, softening edges between years. It's not a sign of dwelling too long in the past. It's the mind tucking itself in with memories that once brought peace. It's saying, "Here, take this light with you into rest." So, even in dreaming, you're never far from home. When you wake tomorrow, those moments will remain quietly folded inside you like letters in an old drawer. They'll surface again when you need them, each one a gentle proof that time can be kind. Every memory that brings calm is a reminder that happiness doesn't vanish. It becomes part of your foundation, shaping the strength to face what comes next. Nostalgia is not escape, it's return. It's the mind tracing the circle of its own story, finding comfort in its completion. And in that circle, time stops chasing itself. It moves in harmony instead, looping through love and gratitude, like music repeating its refrain. So if a memory visits you tonight, let it stay. Let it settle beside you like an old friend. Feel its warmth spread through the present moment. Because in that small reunion of then and now, you are witnessing something timeless. The heart remembering how to rest. Sometimes the past feels so near that you could reach out and touch it. A song plays, a scent returns. A photograph catches the light just so, and suddenly you are there again. The years in between fold like paper. It's not imagination, it's the mind's strange way of bending distance. To your brain, the past is not far away. It lives in the same space as now, just waiting to be called. Memory doesn't measure time the way clocks do. It organizes by meaning, not by minutes. Moments charged with emotion rise close to the surface. Neutral days drift deeper. That's why certain memories stay vivid for decades while others fade within hours. The mind keeps what mattered, not what merely happened. So when something today resonates with something long ago, those old circuits spark alive, flooding the present with yesterday's feeling. Neuroscientists call this temporal compression. It means that long stretches of uneventful time collapse in recall, while single, meaningful events expand. To the brain, the first day at school or the moment of first love might be as fresh as if it happened yesterday, because it's been revisited again and again in thought. Each recollection strengthens its path until it feels immediate. In this way, the past doesn't recede, it orbits. The illusion of nearness is also shaped by familiarity. When life patterns repeat, a familiar street, a song, a season, your mind blurs present and memory. The same sensory cues fire the same neurons that once held the earlier moment. You're not mistaken when you say, "It feels like no time has passed." Neurologically, the same map is lighting up again. This illusion comforts us. It allows reunion across decades and continuity across change. When you meet an old friend after years apart, conversation flows as though you never stopped speaking. The shared neural pathways between you both reignite, filling the gap that calendars insist should exist. Time for that moment yields to connection. The same happens in solitude. You open an old book and find your younger self between its pages, the handwriting, the underlined words, the pressed flower you forgot placing there. Instantly, that version of you feels close, alive within the texture of paper. The distance between who you were and who you are shrinks to the thickness of a page. That's the quiet magic of memory's illusion. It reunites what time divides. But this illusion can also startle. Sometimes we realize that something we thought happened a few years ago was a decade past. The brain's compression trick, usually gentle, hides how swiftly life accumulates. Psychologists call this the reminiscence bump. Adults recall the years of early adulthood most vividly, making that period feel forever near. The rest stretches thin behind it, smooth and rapid, like highway seen from a speeding car. We are built to remember beginnings more clearly than middles. Technology amplifies this illusion. Old photographs, social media posts, digital archives, they keep the past looping visibly around us. In one glance, we can re-enter an old day preserved in pixels. But memory, unlike images, changes each time it's recalled. The picture stays the same, our understanding does not. That's why nostalgia feels both true and transformed. The moment remembered and the wisdom added later blend together into something new. Even the body participates in these temporal tricks. Muscle memory can revive forgotten motions instantly. Fingers remember a piano melody, feet a bicycle's rhythm. The brain keeps a physical archive of learned timing stored in the cerebellum. When those pathways fire again, it feels as though no time has passed at all. Your body, in a sense, travels back to the last moment. It performed the act. Dreams use this same illusion with abandon. They resurrect faces, places, and voices from years apart, mixing them freely with the present. When you wake, you might feel unsettled. How could someone gone so long feel so immediate? It's because the emotional circuits that recognize them don't age. They light up just as they once did. The dream simply pressed the switch. There's tenderness in realizing how close the past truly is. The people you've loved, the places that shaped you, the moments that taught you, they haven't disappeared. They've become part of your mind's living landscape. Every time you remember them, you invite them home again for a while. You give them air, light, and presence. In that act, they grow gentle. Memory's illusions protect us from feeling severed from our own story. They keep continuity alive, reminding us that we are not many separate lives but one unfolding thread. Though the years accumulate, the essence remains. The child, the dreamer, the learner, the wanderer, they all coexist quietly inside the same awareness, their voices blending into the chorus you call me. If time sometimes startles you, if it feels impossible that so much has passed, pause and smile at the mind's kindness. It wasn't deception, it was preservation. The illusion of nearness allows love to stay close and meaning to remain reachable. You are still in conversation with every version of yourself that ever was. They are all here, gathered in memory's timeless room, listening together. So tonight, let that illusion comfort you. Let the past feel near. It's not a trick of the brain, it's the soul's way of keeping company. Every remembered light, every familiar scent, every whisper from long ago reminds you that time is not a wall but a window, and through it, you can always look both ways. Sometimes the mind feels as though it's caught in a small circle. A thought returns, a feeling repeats, an image drifts across awareness again and again. You might call it memory or habit or déjà vu, but underneath it all is something natural, consciousness, folding back on itself. Just as planets orbit stars and tides rise and fall, the mind too moves in loops. It circles through patterns of attention, revisiting what it finds meaningful until it understands it fully. Déjà vu is one of the gentlest examples of this looping. A place, a sound, a sentence suddenly feels uncannily familiar, as though you've lived the moment before. For a heartbeat, time feels doubled. You are both here and somewhere else. Scientists think déjà vu happens when short-term and long-term memory briefly overlap, causing the brain to mistake the present for recollection. But the feeling itself, while fleeting, carries an eerie calm, a whisper that life is repeating something important. The brain thrives on rhythm and repetition. Neural circuits strengthen with use. Pathways light up more easily when reactivated. That's why habits form, why practice builds skill, why reflection deepens understanding. Each repetition refines the pattern until it becomes second nature. In this way, consciousness learns through cycles. It returns again and again to its own edges, smoothing them into grace. Even our moods have loops. Happiness rises, quiets, returns. Anxiety fades, reappears, softens again. These emotional tides are not flaws. They are echoes of the brain's self-balancing rhythm. Every system in nature oscillates. The beating heart, the waxing moon, the shifting seasons. Why should thought be any different? The mind, too, needs recurrence to stay alive. During meditation, people sometimes experience these loops consciously. A thought surfaces, fades, and then returns with less intensity, like a wave losing height. Each cycle brings less attachment, until the thought dissolves altogether. This is awareness completing its orbit. Time in that state is no longer linear. It's circular, self-renewing, endless yet gentle. Dreams use loops freely. Scenes repeat with small variations. A door you can't open, a path you almost find, a conversation that feels unfinished. The dream seems to want resolution. And in a way, it does. The sleeping mind rehearses unresolved experiences, looping through them until emotion softens, and the lesson is absorbed. It's not punishment, it's processing. The psyche heals itself in circles. Memory loops also weave identity. You recall certain stories about yourself again and again, childhood victories, early mistakes, the first time you felt belonging. These recurring narratives become anchors of the self. If they're kind, they stabilize us. If they're harsh, they can confine us. Awareness allows revision. By noticing the loop, you can gently rewrite its script. Over time, the story changes and the orbit widens. Music, one of the purest human creations, is built on loops. A rhythm repeats, a chorus returns, and each repetition deepens pleasure. The brain anticipates the pattern and rewards itself when expectation meets sound. This merging of predictability and novelty is what gives music its power to soothe. It's also why repetition feels safe. We recognize it as the architecture of life. Some spiritual traditions describe existence itself as cyclical: birth, death, rebirth, the turning of galaxies. They say consciousness evolves through these cycles, learning and remembering across infinite variations. Even without believing in such vast return, the metaphor holds comfort. Every morning you wake is a small rebirth. Every night's rest, a small release. The loop of one day already contains eternity in miniature. In daily life, we experience countless tiny time loops without noticing. A familiar routine, the route to work, the steps of making tea creates comfort through repetition. Our nervous systems crave this predictability. It signals safety. Within that safety, creativity awakens. Once the body knows what comes next, the mind is free to wander, to dream, to imagine new possibilities. Repetition becomes foundation, not prison. Sometimes, though, loops can tighten. A worry repeats endlessly, or a regret replays in vivid color. These loops feel confining because emotion feeds them faster than reflection can dissolve them. The key isn't to fight them, but to slow them down. Breathing, writing, speaking them aloud. All these acts release energy from the circle. Slowly, the loop widens into understanding, and the mind can move again. Consciousness, after all, is never truly still. It spins even in rest, exploring its own patterns. This self-reflective movement is what creates awareness itself. When you think about thinking, remembering, you are watching time loop inside the mind. Each layer observing the next, each circle containing another. In those moments, perception deepens, and the illusion of a single straight line fades into spirals. Perhaps this looping nature is why some experiences feel destined. We meet the same lessons in different forms until we learn them. The faces and settings change, but the emotional core repeats, softer each time, until it resolves into wisdom. Life, like the mind, doesn't rush through progress. It circles gently toward understanding. Every return is an invitation to see more clearly, to act more kindly, to let go more easily. When you notice these loops of thought, of memory, of feeling, don't resist them. They are the tides of consciousness turning over, keeping it fresh. Watch them the way you'd watch ripples expand across water, each wave a reminder that something beneath the surface moved once, and still echoes now. If time were truly linear, we would always be leaving things behind. But because the mind moves in circles, nothing meaningful is ever lost. It returns in new forms, giving you endless chances to meet it with greater peace. So, tonight, if a thought repeats itself, let it. Let it circle softly, slower each time, until it finds rest. Every loop eventually unwinds into stillness. And in that stillness, you'll feel what time truly is inside you. Not a line racing forward, but a spiral gently turning, forever leading you home. The present moment is not a fixed point. It stretches and shrinks, expands like breath and contracts like heartbeat. We talk about living in the now as if it were one precise second. But the brain holds a wider window. What you call this moment actually lasts several seconds, a small envelope of time your mind keeps open, so experience can flow without breaking. This is the fluid elastic now, a soft span where past and future mingle before they fade. When you catch a ball or listen to music, this elasticity reveals itself. Your brain predicts what will happen next a few hundred milliseconds before it does. In doing so, it weaves together what just occurred with what's about to occur, creating a seamless stream. Without this overlap, reality would flicker, disjointed. So the mind gently stretches the present, keeping awareness smooth and continuous. This stretching also explains why our perception of time depends on attention. When focused on something captivating, a story, a task, a sunset, the elastic now widens, gathering more detail before letting go. When distracted or anxious, it contracts, skipping over nuance. The difference is invisible to clocks, but enormous to experience. Peace feels wide, worry feels narrow. We live longer, in feeling if not in fact when we live slowly. In moments of awe, the present seems to balloon outward. Standing before mountains or under a night sky, the brain's sense of scale resets. Cognitive scientists say awe dilates perception, flooding awareness with information too vast to fit the usual frame. We feel time pause because our minds are busy expanding the boundaries of now to hold what they see. That's why such moments stay with us. They take up more space inside us than ordinary minutes. The reverse happens in urgency. When danger or stress appears, the brain tightens its window. It stops sampling background details and focuses narrowly on the immediate. Seconds feel sharp and elongated because the mind is gathering data in high resolution. Afterward, the event feels longer than it was. We experienced more thudder frames per moment. The elasticity of now protects us, stretching or compressing to meet the moment's need. Meditation gently reveals this elasticity from the inside. At first, the mind chatters, chasing seconds. But as breathing slows and attention steadies, time loosens. The gap between inhalation and exhalation widens. A single moment feels spacious enough to rest within. You begin to notice that the present isn't an instant. It's an ocean, and awareness floats anywhere within it. The default mode network, the brain system that produces our sense of self and sequence, quiets in these states. When its activity fades, the linear order of time dissolves. Thoughts no longer line up like beads, they ripple outward, overlapping gently. This overlap is what gives meditation its sense of timelessness. In that silence, the elastic now stretches until it feels infinite. You can sense this even in everyday life. Think of a long conversation that felt timeless, or the soft stillness after music ends. But before applause begins, the experience seems to hover, neither moving forward nor backward. For that breath of awareness, you live outside the clock. It's not an illusion. It's simply the mind's window of presence held open wider than usual. Children live with a naturally elastic now. Their brains, still forming, integrate smaller slices of time. That's why play feels endless, why waiting feels eternal, why a single day can feel like a year. As we grow, this window narrows, shaped by routine and repetition. But it can widen again whenever we return to wonder, whenever we notice something as if for the first time. Attention reawakens elasticity. Technology often pulls us the other way. Constant updates, flashing screens, and quick transitions teach the brain to expect rapid change. The now becomes staccato, chopped into tiny, impatient moments. It's easy to lose the capacity for stillness, when every device resets attention before it can stretch. That's why silence, slow walks, and long listening feel healing. They retrain time's fabric to breathe again. The elasticity of now also holds compassion. When you slow down enough to truly be present with someone, your perception expands to include theirs. You feel their pauses, their rhythm, their unspoken thoughts. Moments of empathy often feel timeless because awareness has widened to hold more than one heartbeat. Shared presence stretches the boundaries of now to make room for connection. Dreams are another playground for elasticity. Their seconds bloom into hours, entire stories unfold between heartbeats. The brain's inner clock is free from external cues, expanding and contracting without limit. Upon waking, we often marvel at how much fit into a short sleep. The dreaming mind teaches the waking one this secret. Time bends easily when attention detaches from measure. Perhaps eternity is nothing more than the fully expanded now. Not infinite years, but infinite presence. Experience so whole it has no need for sequence. When people speak of moments that feel sacred or transcendent, they're describing this expansion, awareness so complete that it forgets to divide itself in two before and after. In that fullness, the mind stops searching. It rests inside its own comprehension of being. You can touch this even now. In simplicity, take one long breath and notice how time feels inside it. The inhale gathers the past, the exhale releases the future. Between them lies a pause that could contain the universe. If you listen closely, that pause hums. It is the quiet sound of time stretching to fit you perfectly. The elastic now is where peace lives. It doesn't require hours or plans, only willingness to linger. Every time you notice beauty or kindness or breath, the present expands again, soft as fabric catching the wind. And in that expansion, life feels whole, unrushed, luminous, complete. So, as this chapter closes, let the now stretch gently around you. Let it cradle both memory and expectation, past and promise. You are floating inside it, not racing through it. Here, there is no hurry. Here, every moment is wide enough for rest. Look up, and you are looking backward in time. Every point of light you see tonight left its home long before this moment began. The nearest star's glow began its journey 4 years ago. Others have been traveling for centuries, some since before the first humans watched the sky. When starlight touches your eyes, you are meeting ancient history made visible. It is a quiet miracle, the universe's way of reminding us how vast its patience is. Stars are the original clocks of the cosmos. They mark eras not in minutes, but in millions of years. They reborn when clouds of gas collapse under gravity, heat until they ignite, then burn steadily for unimaginable spans of time. Small red dwarfs may live trillions of years, longer than the universe has existed so far, while giants flare bright and end quickly, their brilliance measured in mere millions of years. Each lifespan is a rhythm written in fire. Inside every star, nuclear fusion converts hydrogen into helium. Each second, our Sunday transforms nearly 4 million tons of matter into energy, releasing it as light and warmth. That energy races outward, crossing space to reach Earth 8 minutes later, where it nourishes every blade of grass and every heartbeat. To feel sunlight on your skin is to feel the present moment powered by something that began in the Sunday's heart 8 minutes ago, an echo of fusion turned into warmth. Some starlight we see tonight began its journey before life existed here. Imagine a blue-white giant blazing in a young galaxy. Its light set off toward us eons ago, crossing expanding space while continents formed, dinosaurs lived and vanished, and humans learned to kindle their own small fires. When that photon finally arrives, it completes a story older than every civilization combined. That is the scale of cosmic time, patient, precise, endlessly generous. Astronomers read the ages of stars by studying their color and brightness. Young stars burn hot and blue, older ones glow softer and red. Clusters reveal entire life stages of stellar families, nurseries of new suns beside graveyards of collapsing ones. Looking through a telescope is like viewing a forest where saplings and ancient trees coexist. The light that reaches us is not simultaneous. It is a layered photograph of epochs, sharing the same frame. The Sunday itself is middle-aged, about 4.6 billion years into a life of roughly 10 billion. It burns steadily, neither young nor dying, providing stability that allowed Earth to evolve life. Each dawn is a reminder of this calm midlife, a steady rhythm in the cosmic symphony. One day far ahead, the Sunday will swell into a red giant, shed its outer layers, and leave behind a white dwarf, a glowing ember that will cool for eternity. Even that ending is peaceful, another transformation in the endless cycle of stars. Our bodies carry this same story. The calcium in our bones, the iron in our blood, the oxygen we breathe, all were forged in stars that lived and died long before our solar system formed. When those stars exploded, they scattered their elements across space. Gravity gathered them again into new suns and planets, including this one. To be human is to be composed of stardust arranged briefly into thought and heartbeat. We are not beneath the stars, we are among them. Made of their memory, time moves differently on such scales. 1,000,000 years to us is a single blink to the Milky Way. Galaxies drift and merge over spans so long that even light struggles to keep up. Yet within that enormity, everything stays ordered by gravity, slow grace. Stars orbit their centers, systems spiral, and nothing truly stands still. Stillness in space is another word for balance. Astronomers once believed the heavens were eternal and unchanging. Now we know they are in constant motion. Birth, life, death, and rebirth of stars, forming an endless chain. Supernovas, the explosions of massive stars, are not destruction, but renewal. They scatter heavy elements, seeding new worlds with the materials for oceans, rocks, and life. Even endings in space are beginning somewhere else. Think of cosmic time as an ocean whose waves are centuries high. We stand on its surface for a brief moment. Our lives are shimmer before the next ripple arrives. But that shimmer is no less real for being short. Without it, the ocean would be darker. Every consciousness that notices the stars adds its light to theirs, turning observation itself into part of the cosmic process. When you watch the night sky, remember that you not only seeing history, you participating in it. Your gaze completes the journey of photons that left their stars long ago. You are the final receiver in a chain billions of years old. Each act of seeing is also an act of closure, a quiet handshake across time. The age of stars teaches patience. It invites perspective. Worries shrink beside suns that burn for eons. And yet, it also teaches intimacy. For all their distance, stars still reach us. Their light still warms and guides. They remind us that connection transcends time when movement is steady and faithful. So tonight, as you look upward, imagine the slow pulse of stellar ages moving through you. Every heartbeat aligns, for an instant, with the rhythm of the sun. Every blink reflects the flicker of faraway flames. You are surrounded by ancient light, and within you burns a spark of the same origin. Cosmic time may be vast, but in this breath you are part of its measure. Close your eyes. Picture the darkness, not as emptiness, but as space between notes of a great cosmic song. The stars are its chords, the planets its echoes, and you, small, listening, luminous. At the moment, the melody becomes real. When we measure ourselves against the stars, we seem impossibly small. A single human life spans less than an instant in the calendar of the cosmos. If the age of the universe were compressed into 1 year, all of recorded history would fit into the final seconds before midnight on December 31st. Every breath you take would vanish between ticks of that cosmic clock, and yet those breaths are no less precious for their brevity. They are the way the universe knows itself. If only for a moment, our tiny moment is brief, but it is luminous. It holds awareness, the rare ability to look up at the night sky and ask questions. Stars burn without knowing they burn. Planets turn without wondering why. Only here, in this fleeting consciousness, does the universe pause to admire its own reflection. We are not observers apart from creation. We are creation noticing itself. Consider how long it took for this moment to arrive. 14 billion years of expansion, collision, and cooling. Countless stars lived and died to form the elements of your body. Earth circled the sun for nearly 5 billion years before life found its footing. Species came and went. Climates shifted. Oceans rose and fell. And eventually thought appeared. Your heartbeat tonight is the latest note in a song that began before sound existed. It's easy to feel insignificant beside such vastness. But significance isn't measured in size. It's measured in sensitivity. A single cell responding to light is as remarkable as the light itself. Consciousness gives the universe texture, color, story. Without perception, there would be no meaning to time, only motion. You give the cosmos a beginning and an end by noticing it. Our short lives invite intensity. Because we have only decades, not millennia, each hour becomes valuable. We gather memories, build families, create art, all attempts to stretch meaning beyond duration. Even a small life, lived with awareness, contains infinity in feeling. A smile lasts seconds but echoes across years. A kind word may outlive both speaker and listener. Tiny moments multiply through connection, outpacing the stars in influence. Think of how a firefly glows in the dark. Its light lasts less than a second, yet 1,000 of them together can illuminate a whole field. Human time is like that. Each act of compassion, each fragment of understanding is a spark added to the constellation of existence. When you help another person, you extend the universe's awareness of itself. Even your thoughts ripple outward. Every invention, every poem, every idea that changes one mind alters the shape of history. The signal may fade slowly, but it never disappears completely. Just as starlight continues traveling long after its source burns out, your influence continues beyond your lifespan. What you do in this tiny moment joins the larger motion of time. It becomes part of the pattern that will one day shine for someone else. There's a humility in this perspective, but also relief. You don't have to hold eternity in your hands. You only have to tend the small piece you're given. The galaxy spins without your permission, yet your choices still matter within your orbit. Meaning exists precisely because it's temporary. A sand mandala swept away is not wasted effort. It's proof that beauty can live and vanish gracefully. The brevity of human life teaches presence. When you realize how little time there is, you begin to savor it. Morning light through curtains, laughter at a meal, rain tapping on glass, these become enough. The awareness that moments end makes them vivid. This is how transience becomes tenderness, through noticing. In some ways, the universe's vastness protects us. Our worries, so large in our own minds, are invisible on a cosmic scale. Even the heaviest burden grows lighter when held against the backdrop of galaxies. The stars remind us that time moves forward no matter what we fear or hope. They invite surrender, to trust that existing for even a blink is sufficient. Astronauts often describe a feeling called the Feely overview effect. From orbit, they see Earth suspended in blackness, small, glowing, fragile. Borders vanish, divisions fade, and what remains is unity. They return changed, quieter, more compassionate. They've seen our shared moment from outside it, and they realize that within that small blue sphere lies every story ever told, every love ever felt, every song ever sung. Our tiny moment viewed from afar contains everything. Perhaps meaning is not about lasting forever, but about being present completely. The stars endure, but they do not know they shine. We flicker and fade, but we know the light, and that knowing is divine. Each heartbeat of awareness justifies the eons that made it possible. The universe has spent billions of years preparing this single instant of you, thinking, feeling, breathing, under the same sky that made you. So, as you rest tonight, imagine the balance of scale. Above you, stars burn across millennia. Within you, atoms older than Earth vibrate in silence. Between those infinities lies your life brief, bright, perfectly timed. You are not late. You are not early. You are not early. You arrived exactly when the cosmos needed you to witness itself. Let that realization quiet you. Let it ease the pressure of hurry. The vastness above does not diminish you. It completes you. In this tiny moment, infinite time folds itself into the shape of a single breath. And you are the breath the universe is taking. Infinity is a word we can speak but never fully imagine. It stretches beyond comprehension, beyond measure, beyond the reach of our most patient counting. And yet, it is not far away. It is here, in every direction, in every atom, in every breath that fades only to return again. Infinity is not something distant. It is the shape of existence itself. When we talk about timelessness, we often picture a frozen world, motionless, eternal, unchanging. But timelessness is not stillness. It is flow without boundary, rhythm without beginning or end. It is the river continuing forever, yet always new in each moment. To experience it, you don't have to leave time. You simply have to stop dividing it. Physicists describe infinity as the limit that can't be reached. Mathematicians write symbols for it, an endless loop lying on its side, a figure eight of forever. But poets have always known another truth. Infinity doesn't live in the farthest stars. It lives in the smallest moment noticed completely. When you pay full attention to one breath, one sound, one heartbeat, it expands. For that instant, there is no past or future, only being. That is timelessness, the infinite disguised as the present. Astronomers peer into space and see light that left its source billions of years ago. Beyond even that, telescopes record the faint whisper of the Big Bang, the first shimmer of everything. But the further they look, the more the concept of before and after dissolves. At the universe's beginning, time and space were born together. There was no then, before it only potential waiting to unfold. Perhaps that potential still hums around us outside the edges of understanding. In spiritual traditions, infinity is described as consciousness without limit, the awareness that holds all moments simultaneously. Mystics, meditators, and dreamers who have brushed against that state say it feels less like expansion and more like merging. The self dissolves, but not in loss. Rather, it blends into something vast and kind. For them, timelessness isn't about living forever. It's about realizing that forever already lives inside you. When you look at the night sky, try to feel that continuity. Every photon of light traveling through space moves at such speed that, from its own perspective, time does not pass at all. For light, the journey from star to eye is instantaneous. It leaves and arrives in the same eternal breath. In that sense, the universe is always happening at once. It's only we who move through it, uncovering one slice of infinity at a time. Sometimes, glimpses of timelessness come quietly, in laughter that suspends thought, in the stillness before sleep, in the deep focus of creation. A second stretches wide enough to hold eternity. We call it presence, or flow, or peace. Words fall short because timelessness cannot be described, it can only be felt. And once felt, it changes how we see everything else. If you've ever stood by the ocean and felt small but safe, you've touched infinity. They have been breaking on shores for eons, and they will continue long after you're gone. But the sound you hear now is unique. It exists only in this moment. Timelessness and time coexist that way. Eternity expressed through now. Infinity also lives in kindness. A single gentle act can ripple outward, touching lives you'll never know. In this way, love is a force that defies chronology. It multiplies without aging. The smile you give a stranger may echo through generations, retold and transformed, like light bouncing endlessly between mirrors. Every compassionate choice is a small defiance of decay, a thread of continuity woven into time's fabric. As for the universe itself, cosmologists believe it may never truly end. It could keep expanding until galaxies drift so far apart that their light can no longer reach each other, or it might one day fold back, collapsing into a new beginning. Either way, infinity wins not as a destination, but as an endless rhythm of creation and renewal. Endings are just pauses between expansions. Infinity doesn't ask us to understand it, it asks us to feel all. When you stop demanding explanation and start listening, timelessness reveals itself everywhere, in the steady pulse of your heart, in the wind's return, in the patient cycles of day and night. The universe repeats itself in endless forms, each whispering the same truth. There is no hurry, there is no lack, there is only unfolding. Human time is linear because our minds are built for story. We need beginnings and endings to make meaning, but the heart knows circles. It beats, rests, beats again, echoing the motion of planets and stars. When you align with that rhythm, even briefly, you step into infinity without leaving your life. You feel its calm passing through you, gentle and vast. Perhaps that's what peace truly is, the awareness that you don't need to stretch toward forever, because forever has already included you. You were part of it before birth, you are part of it now, and you will remain part of it after. Time may rearrange your form, but never your belonging. So as you rest now, imagine infinity, not as a distance, but as a presence, surrounding you like light in still air. There is no edge, no direction to travel, only endless continuity, steady and soft. Let it quiet the need to measure, to count, to rush. Here the seconds open like petals, each one a complete eternity in bloom. Timelessness is not absence, it is fullness. It is the awareness that every moment contains all moments, that the infinite is not ahead of you. It is within you, quietly shining. Feel the expanse behind your eyes, the slow rhythm beneath your ribs, You are already inside forever, and forever is already at rest. There comes a moment each night when the clocks fade into the background. The ticking continues somewhere, faint and constant, but it no longer matters. The body, wiser than the numbers, begins to choose its own rhythm. You breathe slower. The mind unspools from schedules and stories, and time softens into something weightless. This is the beginning of rest, the gentle art of letting go of clocks. All day the world measures you, alarms, appointments, reminders. We divide hours into tasks, tasks into minutes, minutes into seconds, until life feels like a string pulled too tight. But time was never meant to be so sharp. In nature, there are no alarms. The sun does not wake the forest with noise, it simply rises, and the world follows its light. To live closer to that rhythm is to remember what peace feels like. Letting go of clocks doesn't mean ignoring responsibility. It means remembering that not every moment must be measured to have value. You are allowed to exist without accounting for every passing second. You are allowed to breathe without being productive. You are allowed to rest, even while the rest of the world continues turning. The universe does not keep score, it only keeps rhythm. Close your eyes for a moment. Imagine a clock dissolving, its hands slowing until they melt into circles of light. Each rotation becomes a ripple in water, expanding outward until it disappears into calm. That's what happens when you release control of time. You stop standing outside it, watching, and instead sink gently into its current. It carries you, weightless, unhurried, towards sleep. Our ancestors knew this rhythm more intimately. Before artificial light, nightfall was the body's invitation to stillness. Candles burned low, conversations quieted. Stars became the only calendar. There was no need to check the hour. Darkness itself was enough to signal rest. The body followed faithfully, guided by the soft drift of melatonin and the steady cooling of the air. Every evening was a ceremony of surrender, one the modern world has forgotten, but can still be remembered. You can practice that remembrance right now. Dim the inner lights of the mind. Let thoughts flicker and fade like embers. After a long day's fire, feel gravity working for you, not against you, pulling you gently toward the bed, the chair, the earth itself. Notice how time loses texture as the body relaxes. The seconds smooth out until they flow like silk. That's what timelessness feels like when lived. Even the heartbeat begins to move differently. Earlier in the day, it beats forward, driving action, fueling words. At night, it turns inward like an oar resting in still water. The blood keeps flowing, but its purpose changes, from doing to being, from speed to restoration. Your pulse becomes a lullaby older than any clock. Listen closely, and you might hear the rhythm of tides, of wind through trees, of stars turning far above. There's freedom in realizing that nothing needs to happen right now. The world will wait. Messages can wait. Tomorrow will unfold on its own schedule. For this one stretch of night, your only task is to drift. Drift away from deadlines and toward depth. Drift away from measurement and toward meaning. The body already knows the way, you only have to stop steering. If thoughts insist on counting, let them count something peaceful. Count breaths, waves, stars, or heartbeats, not as arithmetic, but as rhythm. Each number can dissolve a little more tension, marking distance from the busy world. After a while, even the counting will fall away, leaving only breath and silence. This is how you slip through the seam between wakefulness and sleep. The clocks fade, but rhythm remains, gentle and infinite. Letting go of clocks also means forgiving yourself for not keeping perfect time. There is no lateness in the grand rhythm of existence. The trees bloom when they're ready. Rivers reach the sea without hurry. Your life, too, unfolds right on time. Every detour, every pause, every change of pace is part of your natural pattern. When you trust that, stress loosens its grip. Time stops being an enemy and becomes an ally. Some people say they lose track of time during meditation, or art or love. But perhaps it's more accurate to say they find time again, the kind that flows instead of ticks. When you stop slicing life into hours and start feeling it as motion, you join the real clock of the world, the clock of sunrise and heartbeat, of growth and renewal. In that rhythm, you are never behind. You are exactly where you're supposed to be. Now, as the day releases its hold, imagine the hands of every clock slowing together, ones on walls, on phones, in minds. They stop pointing, they start circling, softly, endlessly. Each rotation becomes a reminder. Time doesn't push you, it carries you. Let it carry you now. Let the current of night take you farther from noise and closer to rest. You have nothing to do and nowhere to be. Close your eyes and feel the quiet drift begin, the slow unraveling of thought, the gentle widening of breath. Each exhale releases another measure of time until all that's left is presence. Here, there are no clocks, only rhythm, only peace, only the steady pulse of being alive. At first, stillness can feel strange. The world spends so much time teaching movement, progress, productivity, pursuit, that when everything finally grows quiet, the silence seems foreign. But stillness is not absence. It's presence, expanded until nothing else can enter. It's awareness without weight, like air resting on air. To find stillness of mind is to remember what you are beneath thought, calm, continuous whole. The mind loves motion. It circles memories, plans, and possibilities. It chases stories about who we are, what we've done, what might come next. It does this to protect us, to make sense of chaos. But beneath that endless narration lies another layer, steady, spacious, unhurried. Like the surface of a lake settling after a pebble falls, the mind knows how to become still if given time. True stillness begins not by stopping thought, but by softening attention. You don't silence the mind by force, you invite it to rest. Each thought can drift past like a cloud across a wide sky. You watch, but you don't follow. You notice, but you don't cling. Eventually, awareness detaches from its own noise, and you begin to sense the quiet underneath everything. That quiet isn't blank. It hums gently, a frequency so low it feels like warmth, rather than sound. Neuroscientists studying meditation find that, in such moments, brain waves slow into alpha and theta rhythms, the same that appear just before sleep or at the edge of dreaming. The mind has not disappeared. It has changed tempo. Thought becomes softer, less verbal, more fluid. Awareness widens until the boundaries of self blur with the air around you. Stillness of mind doesn't mean nothing happens. It means nothing needs to happen. You are content to exist exactly as you are, without adjustment or improvement. In that acceptance, tension releases on its own. The muscles of the face loosen, the shoulders drop, breathing deepens. You realize that calm was never missing. It was only covered by noise. In deep stillness, perception becomes luminous. Colors seem richer, sounds rounder, space itself more alive. This isn't imagination, it's clarity. When the mental static fades, the senses return to their natural sensitivity. You begin to feel the pulse in your fingers, the rhythm of your heartbeat, the faint hum of air moving through the room. These sensations are not distractions. They are reality revealing itself slowly as it always has. Sometimes thoughts try to intrude again. That's all right. Thoughts are part of the weather of consciousness. They come and go like clouds in wind. You don't have to push them away. Just notice their direction and let them pass. Behind them, the sky remains untouched, endless, and calm. You are that sky, vast awareness through which everything moves. Ancient traditions describe this stillness as the natural mind, the state that exists before effort, before striving. Children feel it easily when absorbed in play. It's not mystical, it's innate. Modern life just covers it with layers of noise and expectation, but silence waits patiently underneath, unchanged by years or circumstance. It doesn't need to be created, only remembered. Stillness doesn't erase emotion, it gives emotion room to breathe. When calm spreads through the mind, feelings lose their sharp edges. Joy becomes gentler, sadness softer, worry quieter. It's as though the volume of life lowers, letting subtle harmonies emerge. You can hear compassion in the background of everything, an unspoken kindness woven into awareness itself. That kindness is what stillness really is, acceptance without condition. To touch this space, begin with breath. Each inhale gathers the scattered pieces of thought. Each exhale releases them. Breathe until breathing happens on its own, until even the idea of control dissolves. At some point, awareness and respiration become the same movement, mind breathing, breath thinking. In that unity, self-consciousness melts away. You are no longer sin breathing. You are being breathed by the universe. In this stillness, time slows until it almost stops. Seconds lose their edges. blending into a continuous flow. You are aware of everything and attached to nothing. This state may last only a minute, but within it, the sense of duration disappears completely. It feels eternal because it's free from measurement. You've stepped into the timeless rhythm that underlies all motion. Stillness of mind is not an escape from life. It's the essence of life revealed. When you return from it, the world looks the same but feels different. Colors seem kinder, people gentler, sounds softer. You've tuned your awareness to a frequency closer to peace. And once the mind remembers that channel, it can return there easily during chaos, noise, or worry, just by pausing and listening inward. You might find that this stillness changes how you think. Ideas come less from strain and more from quiet intuition. Decisions feel like discoveries instead of battles. Creativity flows not from effort but from space. This is what happens when the mind rests. It becomes clear enough to reflect truth without distortion, like a pond mirroring the sky. As you rest here now, notice how stillness expands beyond thought into sensation. The body becomes lighter, breath gentler. You are both awake and dreaming, both here and beyond. This is the natural balance the brain seeks each night when sleep approaches, a gradual fading from thinking to simply existing. When the mind grows quiet enough, sleep arrives like a friend, walking through an open door. For now, there's nothing to chase, nothing to fix. The day has ended, and awareness can fold softly into itself. You've returned to the calm beneath language, beneath identity, beneath time. This is the stillness that holds every thought, every sound, every breath unchanging, welcoming, infinite. Stay here for a while. Let it hold you until even these words dissolve into silence. There is a moment just before sleep when thought fades into light. Not the light of day, but a softer kind, the quiet glow that comes from within. Here, you are no longer measuring, remembering, or reaching. You are only resting. You've slipped beneath the surface of hours into something deeper, older, and endless, rest beyond time. The body knows how to arrive here on its own. It slows the breath, eases the heartbeat, loosens every muscle in turn. It feels like surrender, but it is really trust. The same trust that trees have when they drop their leaves, or waves when they fall back into the sea. You let go, not because you give up, but because you remember that holding on is never required to keep existing. This state has no boundaries. It isn't sleep, yet it isn't waking. It's the pause between the two, where consciousness drifts unanchored. The mind stops asking fully what time is it, and begins to ask nothing at all. Thoughts still rise and fall, but they pass through you like birds through open air. There's nothing to follow, nothing to fix, only being. In this space, time feels like breath, inhaling, exhaling, repeating forever. Every exhale is a small release of the world. Every inhale a return to being alive. Even sleep follows that rhythm, waves of awareness receding and returning. The longer you float here, the more you sense that this, too, is part of life's great cycle. You are both the sleeper and the dream, the tide and the shore. The brain hums gently in this threshold. Neurons pulse in slow synchrony, like distant stars blinking in rhythm. Dream imagery begins to form, faint at first. Colors, fragments, places that feel familiar but unnamed. You don't need to chase them. They will come when they're ready. They're not random. They're the mind's way of balancing its own stories, reshaping memory into something lighter. The deeper you go, the more you'll feel the day releasing its weight. Rest beyond time is healing disguised as quiet. While you drift, the body repairs itself. Cells mend, the heart resets its rhythm, the immune system whispers itself awake. Your mind, freed from constant narration, files away what matters and lets the rest fade gently into darkness. You wake renewed not because the night erases anything, but because it organizes peace back into your being. Somewhere between awareness and dreaming you may sense vastness, the same stillness that holds oceans and galaxies. It isn't far away, it's right here behind the eyes, under the ribs, inside each breath. If you listen, you'll hear a hum so faint, it's almost silence. That hum is life continuing without effort. You don't have to control it, you are it. Every molecule in you vibrates with the same frequency as the stars you've imagined tonight. In this place, there are no clocks, no years, no distance. Past and future lie folded into one eternal present, vast and weightless. The moments you've lived, the dreams you've yet to dream, the stories still waiting, all rest together here. And you, the traveler through all of them, finally rest too. Time is no longer something you move through. It moves through you, softly, endlessly, like wind through a field of grass. You might notice memories drifting in, a voice, a place, a familiar feeling. Let them pass like gentle waves. They're not calling you back, they're accompanying you forward, guiding you deeper into calm. Everything that ever mattered is still with you, but quieter now, peaceful in its place. This is what forever feels like when you touch it, not endless duration, but perfect ease. Even language begins to dissolve here. Words slow, meanings blur, and what's left is rhythm, the pulse of breath, the low murmur of life itself. The universe has no words for this stage. It only knows stillness, and in that stillness, you are safe. You are home. Imagine yourself floating through starlight now, the way a feather drifts on air. There's no destination, only motion without effort. The air supports you completely. Each breath moves you farther from thought and closer to peace. Above, the stars continue their endless glow, patient and ancient, keeping time for no one. They, too, are resting, burning quietly, balanced between gravity and light. You are part of that balance. You are one with the quiet that holds the world steady. You are the pause between heartbeats, the stillness between waves, the silence between songs. Everything you have ever been, everything you will ever be, is resting now within that pause. It doesn't end, it simply deepens. And deeper still, beneath even sleep, you will find yourself, the part untouched by time, whole and calm and infinite. Let go completely. Let breath carry you where it wants to go. Let awareness thin until it becomes light itself. Nothing waits on the other side except rest. You have traveled through thought, through memory, through cosmic wonder, and now you have arrived where all journeys end. Here, in the quiet beyond ours, the stars will keep their watch while you drift. The earth will turn. Dawn will come when it is ready. Until then, stay in this gentle, dark, weightless, and warm. You don't have to think anymore. You don't have to think anymore. Just rest deeply, silently, beyond time.